Adriana's come in. Steve Richardson's coming in. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, we've got a quorum. We can get started. Okay, welcome, guys. So for the last 5 weeks, we have been working hard to get ready for this week. This week, for a lot of people, everything just sort of comes together. And up until now, we have focused on stuff in the inspired sale before, what I like to say, before we show price. Now, finally, today, we're going to show the customer price. And today, we're going to get into a lot of closing tactics. But before we do, let me kind of lay out for you guys what this week is going to look like. Keep an eye on the waiting room here as people are coming in. But let me show you guys what this week is going to look like. So here we go. As we transfer in, I want to start with a question for you guys. So right now you are you're working on a new skill. You're working on some new sales skills. Apart from Floor Coverings International. So I want you to think about something that does not have to do with Floor Coverings International. I want you to think about a new skill that you have recently learned. Maybe you've taken up a hobby. Maybe you've taken up something around the house. I don't know. We'll see what people come up with. But I want to know, what is a new skill that you have recently learned? I want to know what you did to learn it. And then what did you do to perfect it? And you might say, you know what, I'm not perfect at it yet, but this is what I'm doing to try to get there, right? So, I mean, I'll tell you straight up, I picked up a welder about 6 months ago and decided that I wanted to really learn how to weld. And I'm a long, long way from perfect. But you know what? They're starting to look better. So they'll hold together for sure, but they're actually starting to look better. And I'm excited about that. So how about for you? What is a new skill that you've recently learned? What did you do to learn it? What did you do to perfect it? And then finally, is there only one way to do it? So whatever this skill is, maybe you learned how to play the guitar or something, I don't know. Is there only one way to do that particular thing? So let's see, Scott Salfridge, I will start with you, and I'm going to leave the questions on the screen.
Well, I recently took up planting a garden, and the last 2 years, and I'm definitely not perfect. I've watched YouTube videos and asked questions, and definitely some different ways to do things. But yeah, I'm trying to grow my own vegetables. And
nice. Nice. All right. Let's see. How about Edmund?
Well, new skills this week. You guys are going to laugh, but I decided to start doing my own landscaping at home. And I have this 15-foot hedge, and I'm going to share. I don't know if you can see this. That's my
goodness.
hedge. And I decided that I'm going to trim it because I'm a perfectionist. I want to trim it the way I want to trim it. So I've never actually done this kind of stuff. So I went out and I bought a trimmer. And that's kind of what I've been doing.
I love it.
And don't laugh, I went on YouTube. And I literally had to climb on my neighbor's house. I don't know if you can see that little bit of a roof there, but I got permission. I climbed on his roof so I could get the top just right. And I got off the roof and looked at it about 15 times and got back up there and just, I felt like I gave it a haircut, and it was very satisfying. And now I can officially say that I know how to trim a hedge properly. And
nice.
I know that's it.
I love it. I love it. Brent, how about you?
So I play basketball, and there's a move called the sham god. So I learned the sham god. This is in preparation for my class reunion coming up next year. And I want to kill them on the court. So I learned the Sham God by watching videos of the guy who made the move. His real name is God Sham God, if you can believe it or not. That's his real name. So I watched a video of God Sham God, and then I went to the gym. I go to the gym every morning, but I set aside 10 minutes just to practice the God Sham God, doing the dribble moves that he did when he was putting the move together. And then every Saturday morning, I spend an hour at the gym working on it. And then Sunday, I spend an hour at the gym, the first 30 minutes working on the move, and then the next 30 minutes playing with guys to see how good I am at the God Sham God. And by the time it's reunion time for my class reunion next year, I will be good at the God
You'll be
Sham
ready.
God. Yes.
I love it. I love it. All right, Jack Hewitt.
Let's see. Well, this one I've been the only skill I could say I've probably been working on the last couple of years. I had pretty extensive comic collection from the 80s, 90s into the 2000s. I hadn't done anything with them. And then a couple of years ago, I started seeing during COVID, things were spiking up. They're worth a lot more if you get them graded. And I made the mistake of throwing a bunch to get graded. Yeah, 9.8 is where you want to be for the money. 9.6 or 9.4 below, not worth even probably grading some of them. I learned some of that the hard way after a lot of money. So then I've been trying to educate myself on how to clean and press, which I'm not there yet. I've had to put it on the back burner with all this training, but I would like to do it myself because I saw some of the cleaning and pressing. To get the comics, you can bump them up a grade, but it takes, you've got to get a press and you've got to learn, and you're going to screw up. But I'm not there yet on that. To perfect that, I'm just going to have to, practice on some comics that aren't that good. But to get them better, doing it yourself is going to be the thing that's going to save me money. And I just noticed with some of these would send back my local comic book place. It didn't even look like they pressed them or cleaned them. I've learned that, but watching YouTube a lot is just where I educated myself on that. But I'm not even there yet. I need a lot to be able to clean it, but I know how to grade them now kind of with my eye. But anyway, that's
Nice.
Nice skill.
All right. How about Mike Ryan?
Really don't have any other skill other than learn to drive a new car with all the computers.
That's a skill in and of itself.
I'm learning something every week on this car.
I like it.
I've been really concentrating on this. I did put in a floor at the trade show, so that was fun.
Nice. All right, let's see. Chris Paramore.
Well, in keeping with the, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. In keeping with the landscaping theme, back in the day, I had landscape right before college and summers during college, but and I really enjoyed it. So we used to roll out sod and all this. So my front yard was more weeds than it was grass, and it was kind of annoying for a while. So I decided to get a rototiller and tear it all up. So I go to town with this thing, which, in the middle of August it's really difficult because it's a lot of work trying to hold that thing together. But so I rip it all out, grade it all out nice. It's going to be beautiful, seed the whole thing. And so about a week or so later, it starts turning green, it starts sprouting up. My neighbor's like, wow, that's looking great. It's all clover again. So anyway, so I learned a lot about that, about having to pre-fertilize it. I read up on it and everything, found that my nitrogen levels were too low and blah blah blah. And so I've been regrouping since then, but it's finally starting to look pretty good.
Nice. All right, Andrea.
Okay, hi everybody. Well, I've been learning so many things in English here because it's not the same what I study at school or then in an institute. So I've been learning so many things here, like how to start an email. It's very different from what I've learned. And phrases like, instead of saying have a good day, they say have a good one. And so every day I'm learning a lot of things.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see, Jeremy.
Year and a half ago or so, I started picking up the mandolin, and just you're not going to get good at it unless you pick it up all the time. And so with doing all this homework and whatnot, we haven't been picking it up as much, but hey, it's still a lot of fun and kind of gives you peace of mind. So the good old Mando.
Good stuff. All right, let's see. John Neff.
So I have 3 kids. I feel like, figuring out how to be a parent every day is requires some learning, but no, I'm kidding. For me, it's been open fire cooking, which I realize is not as impressive as some of these others, but cooking food over an open fire, learning, different materials to use, different kinds of pots and pans, and how to manage the fire height. It's been very satisfying. So,
John, my kids are now 26 and 23. And I think parenting adult kids is harder than any stage that I went through.
yeah. Don't tell me that. Yeah.
This is a season. I'll tell you, this is a season. Let's see, Zach Hines.
So my house is full of the 4-foot fluorescent bulbs, and there's probably 20 of them in the house and garage, and I'm constantly fighting these pulsating bulbs. So I finally took it and started learning how to bypass the ballast, and instead of calling an electrician, doing it myself, I'm down to about 2 of them left, and I can do it in about 5 minutes now. It's simple as just watching a YouTube video, and there's a guy just as dumb as I am that actually recording how he did it.
I like it. Let's see, Mike McPherson.
Yeah, similar to John Neff. Been doing some outdoor cooking this summer, specifically grilling pizza on our gas grill. In terms of how I learned to do it, like everyone else, looked at some YouTube videos, but it's really trial and error. We initially started with putting the pan directly on the grill, and had put a few less than ideal turnouts. Then I started using a pizza stone, which regulates the temperature a lot better. So that's helped us perfect it over time with time, and become a go-to for us. We actually enjoy making our own pizza more than ordering out. So it's been great.
I love it. I love it. Let's see, Donovan.
I'm in a different route here. I've been trying to figure out ChatGPT and Bard. The AI, I think, is going to be pretty important in the future. And so there's a lot of YouTube videos and things like that out there to really get good at it, but it's amazing. It can do just about anything you ask it to do. So it's been very fun. So
To be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but I know that there's some franchisees that are using ChatGPT to draft almost all of their follow-up emails. I mean, to do all kinds of stuff. There's one particularly in Denver that has done a lot with that.
yeah, I've been using it a lot just for like different features and products. I'll just throw it in and be like, show me the differences, and it's fast and it's easy. So
yep. Let's see, Elise.
Hi, mine is also cooking related. So I've been trying to work specifically on my knife skills because they're pretty bad and I'm pretty sloppy. So I started by taking an in-person knife skills class and then practicing at home. But I kind of find, unless I'm super paying attention to it, that I just go back to kind of sloppy chopping. So just like everyone else, watching YouTube videos to remind myself, and I'm probably due to go back and do another in-person class, just so I can remember the best techniques.
Nice. Let's see, Dave Thayer.
Well, to be honest with you, I really don't have any new skills that I've learned. I live in a small apartment. I would love to be able to do some yard work and even cut some grass. And, I know I say that, but it might get monotonous if I really did have to do that. So to be honest, Arlen, I really don't have any new skills that I've learned.
Okay.
Embarrassing as it is.
Got it. Let's see, Linda.
Here we go. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm with Dave. I'm kind of just not sure I've got a particular new skill that I've been honing in on. Lots of different things I'm working on, but not calling them a skill necessarily. One of the things I think I'd say I am trying to get better at is just social media, which will help me with my new job. But my kids are very knee deep into all of social media, and I scratch the surface on it. So I'm just trying to get a little bit more proficient at it.
Perfect. Perfect. Let's see, Jorge.
Hello. I am learning a lot of new skill. Basically, how to live abroad, and start how to live abroad and start a business from the scratch. But the most important skill is the English for me. I am dealing with it. I am studying every day, every single day. I can say I just have learned it, but I keep going.
I like it. I give you guys credit. So Jorge, Andrea, Leandro, Carla, and Andrea and Julio up in Canada. You guys, I can't imagine. I mean, I know what it is to start a business, fine. But I did not move to start the business. And there's several people that end up moving to start a business. But you moved to another country, learned a new language, start a new business. I mean, it's everything. My hat's off to you for sure. Let's see, Mike Hudson.
Yeah, it seems like all of my learning brain cells have been used up, Arlen, in the past 2 months here. But when I moved down to Florida full time about a year ago, I'd been here part time, but the landscaping had really suffered before then, and most of it was dead. So I did figure out how to get all that stuff replaced without killing it. And then the other thing I found is that a certain type of plant that I put in, either the deer or the rabbit loved it. So I figured out, what do I put on this thing so that the animals quit eating my landscaping, and it works. So it was just the way most learning is done, just on YouTube, and you hope that the person that you're watching there at least has some semblance of knowledge of what he's doing.
Got it. Max.
Yeah, I think this is either the most hilarious or difficult question you've asked, Arlen. I was trying to think before this, like, what was I trying to do before FCI? Because I sure as heck haven't picked anything up in the last 45 days. Thankfully, actually, I was going where John Neff was with parenting on a day-to-day basis. That dates me back 5 more years on when the last hobby was picked up. But I think, ironically, we're talking about landscaping. I was trying to figure out how to do edging, because I've never had to edge, but our new HOA requires edging. So I was borrowing neighbors' edgers before I bought one, trying to figure it out. And I said, oh, I'll buy this flooring business. And I lost all the time in the world. So I just hired somebody to do it. And they're ironically here right now. So that's what mine is.
I like it. Adriana.
Hello. Well, I agreed with Jorge and Andrea. For me, the most difficult and what I have learned the most is the vocabulary, I think. And another thing is that I have been working with all the Canadian regulations and learning about the differences in taxes and payroll and a lot of things. I have been watching a lot of videos and trying to understand how to manage a business in that country.
Good, good. Let's see, Steve Richardson.
I actually have 2. Before this, I was in HVAC and installer, and I could barely turn on a computer. So just in the last 2 months since I quit, with the help of my wife, I'm doing pretty good in that. And then the other is I started learning Spanish about a year ago on Duolingo. So I'm getting pretty good at that too. But definitely far from perfect.
All right, so here's what we do. In the breakout rooms, I put you with Leandro, with Jorge, with Andrea, and the whole room has to speak Spanish. Perfect.
Oh, I'm great. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Mark Baldwin.
Feel like a lot of mine have been stolen, but so I'll go back to something about a year ago I was learning when I took on a role in learning and development and didn't really know much about it and had to do some training videos. And so I ended up finding a software that allowed us to build videos from scratch, but a lot of them had pre-made content, or you could take videos and it would have a storyboard and you could edit it. So I kind of just would steal from other people's video, trying to learn how to create my own and just basically edit there, so that I got comfortable enough to then start my own from scratch. And but stealing other people's work was probably the best way to do it and learn. So pretty good at it by the end there.
Good, good. Let's see, Leandro.
Hey, good morning. Well, like the other Spanish speaker, I know my English is not very good looking now, but well, I am improving. But it's not a skill now. But my skill I am learning is how to make a Argentinian barbecue in North American grill.
Uh-oh.
It's different. We use carbon and fire, wood, and all that stuff. But I now improve and I'm learning that, and well, it's a new skill for me.
Nice, nice, nice. Let's see, Liz.
If you asked me this question a little over a year ago, I would have had many more things to choose from. But these days, the only two things I have time for are FCI and my baby, who just turned 1. Sleep doesn't even make the list anymore. But for my baby Liam, I think for me, what was so interesting was I didn't have my baby until I was 40, and it's kind of one of those. I had no idea this world that is all things baby when you don't have one. And it's just so crazy seeing the other side and realizing all the things you're told to do or should do, or there's a certain way to do things. And it took me many months until I kind of threw that thinking out the window and realized there is no one way to do things, right? So there's like the Instagram version of like how to take care of your child. And then I just always felt like I was falling short. And man, was it a game changer when I realized that there are so many different ways to do things, both, for me and for my baby. And so I think that really helped. But man, it is one of those things I will never be an expert at, no matter how many hours I put in studying, learning, doing. It's just going to continue evolving.
I like it. I like it. Michael Pfefferman.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Thanks for waiting. Like a lot of people, I've been dabbling with plants lately, and I learned to revive orchids because my wife's always going to not Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. They sell like cheap, beautiful orchids. So she's always bringing home these orchids, and then like 3 weeks later, or a month later, their blooms are all done, and we're throwing them away. That seemed silly to me. So I went on YouTube and I read some articles online and started trying to do what they said, and it sort of worked for some and sort of didn't for others. And I, tried to figure out what was wrong and change some things up. And this summer I had like 6 or 7 orchid plants in my office, like all, put out new blooms, and it was pretty awesome.
Nice, nice. Let's see, Carla.
Not really, just all the exploring all the information. I think that's the skill that I'm working on right now. Not much more time for other things. So I think that's it.
Okay. All right, let's see. Mommy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I don't know if it's a skill or experience. I wasn't feeling good lately, so yesterday I went to see my doctor, and then he said your blood pressure is too low. And then she laughed. She said all the patient I have, I've been telling them eat less or eat less salt, but you need some salt. I was like, what? She said, yeah, you need to eat more food that has salty breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was like, okay. So it was a new experience I learned. I didn't know that I need more salt in my body.
Got it. All right. So for most people, they say starting a new business builds the blood pressure. For you, it seems to have the opposite effect. So good.
Yeah.
Let's see, Bella.
I started taking up crocheting about like 2 years ago, and I've only made like pot holders and blankets, stuff that looks like squares. So I decided this week that I'm gonna try making myself a sweater since it's starting fall. This is my sweater so far. But yeah, I've been learning on YouTube and it's all self-taught. And I went to Joann's and talked to some of the older ladies there and they kind of helped me.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let's see. Carly and Miguel.
You wanna go first? Oh yeah, so good morning, everyone. How y'all doing today? It's a beautiful Tuesday. For me, this is something I've been doing for a little bit, so I don't think it's a skill, but I've been beat stripping. I don't know anybody who knows about DJing, so I've been stripping beats. Take music from one place and put it into the next, and then it still won't sound like it's original. So that's something like I've been working on. Well, I'm getting better and better at it. I'm not gonna talk about cooking, but I got everything down. So yeah, that's my new thing.
Good, good. Carly?
I too am trying to learn Spanish on Duolingo. I started with Romanian because I work with people in Romania, and then I switched to Spanish, and now when it's time to speak Spanish, Romanian comes out. So it's tough.
I like it. I like it. That's a neat twist. I like it. Let's see, Leo.
Well, I guess I've been dabbling gardening for the last 10 years, and I started growing potatoes. And I learned by trial and error, so I just went down to the store, bought some potatoes, just stuck them in the ground. And I mean, I did all right. I got a few potatoes, but I figured there should be more per plant, I guess. So I actually I Googled it and started reading up a bit about it. And I learned that potatoes grow up, not down. And I didn't know that. So you have to dig a really deep hole, put them at the very bottom, and slowly as the plant, the green part grows up, you fill in dirt and they grow up. And so you get more production. And so that was a new skill, and I'm getting better at it now. I'm getting more potatoes per plant. So that's kind of neat for me. And I don't know if there's any more than one way to do it. Apparently not. You got to start at the bottom and grow up.
Okay. Let's see. Did we hit Jorge? Jorge, did we get you?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. How about Cody?
My parents are doing this development, so, and my dad's just one of those crazy people who tries to do everything himself. So I've learned how to operate quite a few new pieces of heavy machinery, like dozers and skid steers, excavators, things like that. It's definitely something you got to work at, but I'm getting much better. So
Good. Good. As long as you have an open field to practice in, right?
No, literally, I'm in the most open spot possible. I'm not near any buildings or anything. So
I like it. I like it. Let's see, Leslie.
Hi. Like everybody else, I don't have time to learn anything really. I actually have been doing more DIY stuff myself instead of hiring a handyman. I've been doing it myself. Like I installed my own ceiling fan. I put in this thing that I can open my garage door with my phone. So just little things like that. So my next project is I'm designing a deck I want to build myself in my backyard.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Let's see, Frank.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
So nothing really new, just continuing. Same line of work, worked for a different company for 3 years. But I've also been asked to commit to a leadership role as far as a nonprofit veterans role. So the bottom line is about communication. Communication, skill, listening, exactly what we're doing here. So that kind of all blends together. That's kind of what's on my plate. I get to ride the bike with the boys. So it's kind of where I'm at, if that makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. Thank you for that. Let's see, Charlotte.
Here we go. Good morning, everybody.
Um, today is my birthday, and
Yay!
I know, shout out for all of the Virgos out there because we are just type A pain in the asses, you know? Listen, you know, one of the skills that I am reflecting on is like in this moment is not utilizing this day. I mean, it's all about celebration, but I'm trying to shift that focus and I want it to become about a day of gratitude where I'm reflecting on the things that I've had this amazing year and the family and friends, and to like take a moment to actually express that and sit down with my family and say, wow, like I'm just incredibly blessed to have you by my side and be on this journey with you. And so I'm trying to develop what that means and what that's like and how I can teach that to my kids.
Good, good. Let's see, Julio. I saw Julio jump on.
Hello guys, can you hear me?
There he is.
Hello?
Yes, we have you.
Okay, okay. Well, I love to learn new skills like very often. From one job that I had that I learned programming to analyze databases just with a click of a button, log into my credentials, log into internet, copy information, filter, generate charts, even create the email with the title, date, automatically everything. So that was kind of amazing. But from servicing my car brakes, I used to do a long time ago, many cars that I had, like I serviced myself, changing the air conditioner, like even drive a trailer, to park a trailer. I don't know, like I love to learn new things, and YouTube is amazing. Keep using YouTube.
I love it. All right, did I miss anyone? Did I miss anyone?
Hey, Arlen, this is
Yes, Mutu. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, you know, I hired a guy from TaskRabbit to put the racks in the van, and he showed me a tool set that I have for years, but I don't know how to use it. He taught me how to use that tool, and that's pretty helpful to going forward.
I like it.
Yeah.
Did I miss anyone else? You guys know that the faces move around. I'm trying to go in order of the faces, and as things move, that doesn't help so much. Okay, so there's a point to this. All right, I wanted you guys to reflect on a skill that you had learned, because for me, I 100% believe that sales is a skill. I know that there's some people that will tell you, well, this person is a born salesperson, this person is a born salesperson. Yes, I'm sure that there are people that are born with certain characteristics or with certain traits, you know, where they just feel more comfortable talking to people. But I would tell you that sales is 100% a skill. And just like a lot of the other skills that you guys have said that you've learned, you didn't know how to do it. When you first started doing it, you probably weren't that good at it. But you kept trying, and you kept either going back to YouTube or going to a live class or going to people at Joanne's to talk to people that have done it before, and you continue to get input and you continue to practice and practice and practice as you got better and better and better. And I don't know that there's anyone that said, well, this is a skill that I know and now I'm perfect at it. No, because frankly, in our lifetime, we may never be perfect at any skill that we try to pick up. But the reality is, as long as we keep working at it, and as long as we keep practicing and we keep working and trying to gain more knowledge, we can get better and better and better. You know, there's salespeople in our system that have a 60, 65% close rate, even a 70% close rate. And you know what they do? They keep practicing and they keep getting better. They keep working on their sales skills so that they can get even better. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd be really, really happy with a 70% close rate. My typical residential close rate is about a 50%. I mean, it's good, but it's not. I mean, 50% it's a good close rate, but it's not 70. I'd love to be at a 70% close rate, but I keep working at it. I keep working on skills. I keep working on this. I keep working on this class. I keep working on diving into different tactics and different techniques. But one thing that, and several of you said this, but I'm gonna lean on the way that Liz said it. You know, Liz said that as she's learning what it means to have a newborn, there's not just one way to do it. And I will tell you that one of the it's not a problem, but it's one of the misconceptions that comes after going through a course like this, is that there's sort of this perception, well, the way that Arlen taught it is the only way to do it, or it's the FCI approved way to do it. And that's just, it's not true. I mean, the reality is I'm teaching you a way to sell, but it is not the only way to sell. And even within the Inspired Sales System, there's a ton of flexibility in order to make this your own. And you have to make this your own, okay? I'm going to share with you a closing technique today. And I actually think it's an absolutely fantastic closing technique, and it's one that I use quite frequently. Is it the only closing technique? No, it's not the only closing technique. And if you never use it, does that mean you're not using the inspired sale? No, that's not what it means. It just means that this is a technique or a tactic that you've decided that you'll do it a different way. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Go back and look at the brand standards. What are the brand standards? You're going to show up wearing some sort of branded clothing. You're going to deliver a great customer experience. You're going to give the company story. We're going to be on time for people. I mean, those are brand standards. Those are things that, yes, we will absolutely do. But if you go into the house and in your warm-up, you forget to ask the transition questions, it doesn't mean that you're not delivering a great experience. It just means that's a tactic that you didn't use that day. Or if you didn't use a reference list. Now, I am 100% believer in the reference list. I personally would never run an appointment without it. I wouldn't run an appointment with my mother without using the reference list. I just wouldn't, okay? Because I've been burned by running appointments with friends or family where I thought, oh, this person knows me, I don't have to use all the tools, and then not land the job and realize that, well, crap, if I had done this or if I had done that, it might have actually sold this job. Okay, so for me personally, I would, I like to empty the barrels. So I'm going to use the tactics, I'm going to use the techniques that I've taught you guys, but that doesn't mean this is the only way. So what am I trying to say? Sales is a skill. And just like other skills that you've learned, when you first learn how to do it, you're probably not going to be good at it. So the reality is next week you start going out and running appointments by yourself and you're not good at it. That doesn't necessarily mean this is a bad sales system. It might be that you're just not good at it yet. It might mean that you just need some more practice. Or it might mean that you do need to do a little more customization and figure out how to make it better for yourself, right? And make this work for you. I'm going to have to Google the Shamgod basketball move. I've never even heard of that. But I'm fairly certain that you would not see that on YouTube and then decide without any practice, I'm going to go use that in a game. I'm going to use that at the class reunion. Well, probably not. I mean, you want to be prepared. You want to practice it. In the same way, you're not going to take a skill like the walk of life and decide, well, the first time I'm ever going to try that is when I'm sitting in front of a customer in their home. That doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't I want to practice that with somebody before actually using it? Okay. So what I want you to think about this week, when you think about this week, I want you to think about this is an opportunity for you to be able to practice stuff without the repercussions of failing. We walk into a customer's house and we feel like, oh my gosh, I missed the sale, or I didn't make the sale, or I even pissed them off because of something that I said or did. You don't have any of that pressure this week. One thing that I have learned is that human beings learn through failure. And as a matter of fact, we tend to learn through failure more than we learn through success, which is really weird. You would think that we would learn through success better, but we don't. Oftentimes we learn what not to do before we learn what to do. And so this week, as you have a chance in breakout rooms to work with one another, as you have a chance to really try something new, try this, try that, whatever it takes, this is your opportunity to fail. This is your opportunity to do stuff that you might never do in front of a customer if you don't have a chance to practice it first. And yeah, that's me in the number 315. And you know what? Both of us learned something that day, what to do and what not to do. So a little bit about etiquette and what we're going to set up for today. You know, we're on Zoom. I know that when we are on Zoom for an extended period of time, we really have to, it's almost a struggle to stay engaged for the whole time. I'm going to do my best to ask a lot of questions and keep you guys engaged. I'm going to ask you to keep your energy level up. We will take breaks. I know that the brain can only absorb what the butt and the bladder can handle at one time. So we're going to deal with that as well. We will have an extended break so that you guys can grab something to eat for lunch at a probably 1:30 or so Eastern, roughly. But I'm going to ask you to do, like, when we take a break, to be very punctual coming back. So oftentimes when we come back from a break, we'll come back from a break and immediately go into a breakout room, but I can't set the breakout rooms until everybody's back. So if you're the one person that's 5 minutes late from the break, it holds everybody else up. So I'm going to ask you to be really, really punctual when we take breaks. And to minimize distractions as much as possible. So if you can even afford to turn your cell phone off while we're here together, that would be great. If you're trying to work on 2 screens right now, if you're trying to pay attention to something else on the screen and listen to me, it's just not going to be effective. It's just not going, you're not going to absorb what you really need to absorb. So I'm perfectly happy to stop and take a break so that people can make phone calls or take deliveries or whatever you need to do. But I just know that if you're distracted, you're not going to get out of this what you really want to get out of it. Now, on the evaluations, because I've gotten several emails about what this really looks like and what these are for and whatever else. So if you are a brand new franchise owner, okay, and there's like 20 some of you that are going to be in Atlanta next week and you're opening your business next week. If you are a brand new franchise owner, then you have already received, you should have already received invitations from one of the ops coaches for each day this week. And we're going to be together between now and about 4 o'clock this afternoon, Eastern time. We're going to be together. We're going to go through a lot of content. We're going to go through a lot of material. And then this evening, you're going to work in a small group with one of the ops coaches. So for tonight, we've got Grant, we've got Joe, we've got, no, not Nathan tonight, Ron and Savannah. So you guys are going to be paired up with an ops coach this evening, and you guys are going to work through a very specific part of the sales system. If you are a design associate that's on this call, your evening looks very different than that. Tonight, I would expect that you're going to go run an appointment with your franchise owner or with another DA that's in your office. And when you do run that appointment, if you can run the whole appointment, great. If you run half the appointment, so be it. Whatever it is, run the part of the appointment that you and your owner feel comfortable with you running. At the end of the appointment, I'm expecting that your franchise owner takes out that competency assessment form and fills out, from 1 to 5, from somebody that still needs a lot of help to somebody that could coach someone else. This is how I would give you feedback. And the last page is the most important page, where it says, these are the 2 things that you should work on the most. Okay. By the way, for the franchise owners, your ops coaches know to do that. So tonight, at some point tonight, I'm going to get a bunch of emails. I'll get one email for each one of you that says, this is the feedback that I had for so-and-so. All right. So what do I do with that feedback? Those are not grades. It's not like this is a graded course where somebody's going to get an A+ and somebody's going to get a D- and just barely make it through. It's not a grade. It gives me feedback on what it is that we're going to work on tomorrow. So I have built-in practice time tomorrow based on what I learned from this evening's evaluations. Okay. I've got, I don't know, 100 different exercises that I pull from. Every one of these inspired sale classes looks and feels a little bit different because of that. Because you know what? As we went through the class this time, something got missed or something didn't hit right or whatever. And I want to make sure this week that it all comes back together for you. So what does today specifically look like? Well, here in just a moment, we've done our transfer in. We're kind of walking through our etiquette and expectations. Here in just a minute, I'm going to turn our attention back to the whiteboard. We're going to work through 2 big things today. We're going to work through a bridge the gap exercise, and we're going to work through step 8. with some breaks in between, okay, and with some role play. Questions about, this says Monday, it should say Tuesday. Questions about the schedule today or evaluations or what this week is going to look like? Anything before we dive in?
Yes. Since Jibril is not on the meeting, so are you gonna place me to the DA since I'm gonna be the DA, and who I'm gonna practice with because he's not on the meeting?
No, I have you assigned as if you are a franchise owner.
Okay.
Okay, so you have been assigned to one of the ops coaches. I don't have that list in front of me, but there's an ops coach that should have sent you an email that has an invitation for this evening.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, Linda.
Yeah, Arlen, just a quick question. I know you sent us really early this morning a scenario that you want us to do on our tablet. Is that going to be a different scenario every day? Will we get one of those every morning? I'm just trying to, because I haven't gotten to do it yet, but I figure I'll do it over lunch. But
yes, you'll get a different scenario each day.
Okay.
And the scenario is, the reason it's there is just so that you already have that drawn, right? So when you're working with the ops coach, just save everybody a little bit of time and go ahead and have the scenario already drawn up on the tablet. You do not have to create a customer in Salesforce and all that. Just, you know, if it says just create a training task, then just hit the plus on the tablet and create a training task.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. So earlier today,
one more.
Yes.
I've gotten 2 like invites for the same time period in my calendar. Is there a reason why there's 2? One's like
one of them you got months ago just as a way of holding the time.
Okay.
And now you should have the real one.
Okay.
So the placeholder doesn't have any information in it. The placeholder is truly that. It's just a placeholder on your calendar.
Okay.
All right, good. Okay, let me switch back here. The whiteboard was giving me trouble this morning. So let's hope that we have sorted this out. Otherwise, I'm going to call Julio and his computer skills and see if he can't fix it for me. All right. So step 8, before we dive into step 8, we need to remember where we are. So let's take just a minute, okay? And I mean a very quick minute. Somebody calls, you guys just shout these out. Somebody calls the call center and makes an appointment. What's the first thing you're going to do with that?
Call them back as soon as possible.
Yep. So we're going to do our setup call, right? Perfect. Okay. Now we actually make it to the house. So we've done our setup call. Everybody's happy, happy, happy. What's the first thing that we're going to do when we get into the house?
Warm up.
Warm up.
Yeah, warm up. And then as we move into the next step, this is where we get to ask those pesky little transition questions to figure out what it is that what is the big objection that the customer has of buying from me today. All right, so what's the next thing after we've had an effective warm up? Then what are we going to do?
The inspection and the reference list.
Yeah, all right, so we got to do an inspection. Okay, and it'd be good to throw that reference list out there. And I'm absolutely serious. I would not even run an appointment with my mother without one of those reference lists. I know that sounds weird, but I've run too many appointments for friends and family where I skip steps thinking that this is a shoe-in. There's no such thing. So it's, I don't know.
So-
For me, it's important to hit them all. All right.
So
what
Arlen,
happens?
what do we do?
Yes.
What do we do for the first several weeks when we don't have a reference list?
So what I did, I'll throw a couple of options out there for you. What I did was I went back to people that I had worked with, right? So I left a job to start Floor Coverings Internet, to start my business. And I went back to people that I worked with and I told them from the very beginning, I do not want you to lie for me. So if somebody calls you, I'm not asking you to say, oh yeah, he did a great job with my carpet. I've never put carpet in your house, so don't lie, okay? And I changed the questions at the bottom of the reference list to say, instead of, so the questions that are at the bottom of the reference list today, did Floor Coverings International do everything they said they would do? Did they clean up? And if you had to do it all over again, would you do it again? So I changed the questions to say something like, is Arlen somebody that you would trust to do a project for you? If you were considering doing a flooring project, would Arlen be somebody that you would work with? Okay, I mean, so I made it more of a character reference rather than a flooring reference, right? And I told people up front, look, I'm new. The company's not new, but I'm doing this role. I think it's important for you to understand who you're working with. And so I turned it into more of a personal reference list until I built up several people that then I could start using as a reference. Now, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, especially, I mean, you guys are right there in the metro Atlanta area. Look, it wouldn't hurt to reach out to other franchise owners and just see, just see. Would you be willing to share a reference list with me? Because now it gets to the point where it's not, did Carly do everything that they, no, it's not that. It's, did Floor Coverings International do everything they said they were going to do? Okay, well, then it doesn't really matter which franchise it was. It's all the same. Okay, so that's another way to do it. All right, so we've got our setup call, our warm up, our inspection. What's the next thing we're going to do?
And measure.
Yeah, we got to measure.
Take the video.
And here's where I'm going to put together my rough draft. Pricing. How many options do I want to build?
3.
Okay. All right. So the next step, I've got to go out to the van and actually pull these products, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many boards do I want to pull for option 1?
4.
3 to 4.
3 to 4.
How about option 2?
2 to 3.
And option 3?
1 to 2.
1 to 2. Okay. All right, good. All right, so I come back into the house. I've got some sample boards with me. What's my next move?
Go to the van.
Company story.
Product.
Company story.
Good. All right, so I do my company story. Part of that company story is the installation presentation. Okay, which I know it seems weird that that's another step because it's sort of embedded in the company story, but that video starts us with how we're going to install it, right? So if you think about it, this is who we are. This is who am I. This is who are we. Okay. Right. This is sort of how we do it. Okay. So all this is, we're building a story here. Okay. All right. So what happens after we've gone through the company story and the installation presentation?
Install video.
You show them the product.
Yeah, we got to pick the product.
Wait, I'm having something different.
Okay, and so this is my what, right? Okay. All right. So then what?
Pre-close.
Pre-close. Pre-close. Anybody remember the pre-close question?
Besides price and payment. Is there any reason, can you think of any reason you wouldn't be able to buy from me today?
Close. It's pretty close. All right.
Besides price and payment, is there a reason we couldn't get your flooring project started today?
There you go. So other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your project started today? Okay. So the pre-close, there's a question and a commitment statement. Don't forget the commitment statement, right? So once they say no, it really just comes down to price or whatever they say. you know, follow up with, well, look, I'm going to do everything in my power to not let price or payment or anything else stand in the way of you getting the floors that you love and deserve. Great. So we make a commitment. What happens after that?
Close.
Close.
Now we get to see the price finally. Okay. All right. How do we do? Yep. I might have done that a time or two. Okay, good. All right, so we know where we're headed. Now, for today, well, let me do this a different way. Pre-close question. So I'm focusing in on the pre-close question. In the pre-close question, I ask, other than price or payment, would there be any reason when I ask this question, how is the customer going to answer? How could they answer?
You get more estimates.
Okay, all right. So they might say, I need to get more estimates. What else?
I'd say there's no other reason.
Okay, all right. There's no other reason. Okay.
I gotta think about it.
Okay. I gotta think about
talk to
how
my
to
wife.
write that. All right, so I need to think about it.
It's sort of, I need to think about it as kind of like, I'm not sure. I feel like people could just say, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So let me take all of these possible answers, right? And we could brainstorm 1,000 different ways that somebody could answer this. Other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And I'm going to separate these into two categories, okay? I'm going to call one side a positive pre-close, and the other side I'm going to call a negative pre-close. Okay, so I've got to explain what I mean by that. Other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? If the customer comes back with something that sounds like price, payment, time, something that's a buying, that they're in the buying framework, right? I consider that a positive pre-close. So if they come back and say, no, it really just comes down to price. Well, I don't know what the payments are. Okay, well, I'm not sure if I could really do it right now. Okay, we'll have to see what the budget is. This might be something I have to do 6 months from now. Okay, that's what I mean by time. I don't mean I need time to think about it. That's a decision. Now we're in the decision mode. We're not in the buying mode, right? We're thinking about time to decide, not time to do. So positive pre-close, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And the customer says, no, it just comes down to price, or it just comes down to the payments, or it just comes down to whether or not I can fit it in my budget. Okay, these are examples of positive pre-closes. In other words, what they've told me without telling me, what they've told me is that everything that I did before step 7, everything I did before step 7, that worked for them. I have convinced them that I'm the right person, that we're the right company, and that we've found the right product. And the only thing left is for us to figure out the price. Okay, does that make sense? We understand positive pre-close. Okay, well, what's a negative pre-close? A negative pre-close is really anything else. Okay, for example, well, I need to get other estimates. What is the one piece of information that this customer doesn't have yet?
Price.
They don't have the price. So how do they know they need other estimates? They haven't seen my number yet. I might be doing a whole house for $500. I mean, this might be the one, you know, we do one job a month free of charge and you're the lucky winner. They haven't even seen the price. So what do they need other estimates for? If you ask the pre-close question, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And they say, well, I still need to get other estimates. What they're telling you is there was something before step 7, whether it was I'm not convinced you're the right person. I'm not convinced you're the right company. I'm not convinced this is the right product. There's something that still isn't sitting right. Now, there's 2 reasons, okay? There's 2 reasons that it's so important for you to be able to differentiate between a positive and a negative pre-close. So when you ask this question, you have to be able to listen to what the customer says so that you can mentally discern, is this a positive pre-close or a negative pre-close? Mike, I'll get to you in just a second. Positive pre-close or negative pre-close. And the reason this is so important is because first of all, it tells me, did I do a good job leading up to this point? Okay, so one of the beautiful things about this sales system is it's not about helping me figure out how to sell to this person. It's about me getting feedback so I know how to improve myself for the next one. If you're getting a lot of these, well, I need to get the other estimates during the pre-close, there's something before the price that you're not nailing quite right. Okay, so it gives me something to work at. But the other thing that this helps me with is if I get a positive pre-close, then I know going into step 8, I have certain techniques that I'm going to use. If I get a negative pre-close, it changes what I have to do right now. Mike, your question.
Yeah, so with a customer indicating they needed to get other quotes, couldn't that also be linked to price? Like if someone's early in the process, they don't have a frame of reference whether our price is good or not. So is that necessarily a negative if they're still trying to get a frame on, hey, what is the price and what should it be?
So there's no absolutes at this point, right? You will run into people that they're going to get 3 quotes no matter what your number looks like. And they're not necessarily going to pick the lowest one, but they just want to make sure that people are in the right ballpark. Okay. And that's fine. I'm not afraid of that by any stretch of the imagination. But by and large, if you have made a good connection with this person and they know that you're the right person, if you have really delivered the company story well and you have helped them to see why getting other estimates is not necessary. I mean, it just isn't. I mean, you can get them, but this is why it's not necessary. And if they have absolutely fallen in love with the product, then this really should come down to whether or not the price is right. Mike, the other Mike.
Yeah. What about a situation, and let's just suppose that the appointment has both people, the adults in the house, with both, say, just for example, the husband and wife are both there, both engaged and all this, but they want to have time to talk about it sort of privately before they make a decision. Because I have found that I always consult my wife on big
100%.
Big purchase things, but I don't want to talk about that stuff necessarily in front of the salesperson.
100%, 100%, right? So when do I expect that to come up? Well, I'm going to ask this question, and they may tell me now, right? They may tell me, well, we don't really want to make a decision without having time for the 2 of us just to talk. Okay, great. You know what? I'm not going to put any pressure on you. Let's take a look at the price, and then I'll give you guys some time to talk.
Okay.
So what would I do? I can show the customer the price, and I can walk back out to the van and give them time to talk. I mean, it's, you know, if they want overnight to talk about it, great. I'll give you overnight to talk about it. One of the things that I've found, so I'm getting a little off track, but one of the things that I like to do to stall, okay, every appointment you go to, you should have a stack of door hangers. And every time you go to an appointment, it should just be like, this is part of my normal process. I hang 20 door hangers around this person's house. So 20 is in a typical subdivision, 20 is easy because you can walk up the street 5 houses. That gets me 5. You can turn around and walk down the street 10 houses. That gets me 10. And then I walk back up 5 houses. Now I've got 20 laid out, and it took 3 or 4 minutes to do, right? So I might tell this customer that wants some time to think about it, hey, look, you know, I normally hang a few door hangers while I'm putting my samples away. I'll go take care of that, give you guys 10 or 15 minutes to chat. And if you don't mind, I'll come back in and grab my samples. And that way I'm not putting any pressure on you, but that way, if you have any questions that come up while you're talking, while I'm still here, we can answer those questions. And oftentimes when you come back in to answer any questions, they're just ready to sign because they've had a chance now to talk about it by themselves.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So positive pre-close, negative pre-close. Negative pre-close is something that I can't. If somebody absolutely says, well, no, I want to get other estimates. Okay. Can I go back? Let's just think about this for a second. Can I go back now if they say negative, like a negative pre-close? No, I want to get other estimates. Can I now go back and have another warm up with them to help them see that I'm the right person?
Yes.
Not really. I mean, that ship has sailed, right? I mean, here I am about to show them the price. I can't, okay, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And they look at me and say, well, you know, we're going to go get other estimates. Oh, other estimates. Well, tell me about your vacation last year in Spain. I mean, that doesn't work, right? It's out of place now. So if I didn't really convince them that I was the right person before, I probably can't now. Can I go back and do the company story a second time? Because I know, you know, I skipped a bunch of stuff and, well, let me go back and redo the company story and see if I can convince you there. Not really. I mean, I took that shot and I missed. Okay. The only thing that I can really do is I can say, oh, other estimates. Okay. Is this the product that are you really convinced that this is the right product? Or is there another product that you'd like me to prepare another estimate for? You know, you want other estimates, I can give you other estimates. I've got 3,000 samples in the van. How many estimates do you want, type of thing, right? Now, I'm being a little bit funny. I'm not going to be ugly in front of the customer, but at the end of the day, if the customer wants other estimates, I can give them a ton of other estimates. How many do you want? So really the only thing, if somebody says other estimates, the only thing I can really do with that is maybe focus in on the product and say, is there another product that you'd like for me to put an estimate together for? But remember, they haven't seen the price yet. So all of this is a little bit like throwing a Hail Mary, okay? I've got to get really good at steps 1 through 6. I got to get really good at steps 1 through 6 so that once I've done this well and I get other than price or payment, then I feel pretty good that I'm going to get a positive pre-close. Now, on your first week, your first month, you know, how many times are you going to get a positive pre-close? I don't know. I know that once you've been doing this a while, 90 or 95% of the time, you should be getting people that just say, well, no, it really just depends on what the price is. Because you've done a great job in a warm-up. You've done a great job showing them who we are and what we do and how we do it. And now they've fallen in love with the product because you did a really good job of helping them pick the product out. And so really, it really does come down to price. They absolutely can make a decision if the price seems reasonable. Okay. All right. Now I have to lay down a ground rule for today. Okay, for today only. For today only, we're going to walk into the close but we're going to walk into the close on the assumption that we just got a positive pre-close. Okay. That's not to say that we're never going to get a negative pre-close, but for today, we have to, this is how, you have to train little pieces at a time. So the little piece that we're going to take today is, I just got a positive pre-close. I asked the question, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And the customer said, no, it really just comes down to price. And so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the tablet out, I'm going to show them the price, and I'm going to ask them the closing question. And we're going to assume that I just got a positive pre-close. Okay, so put that in your mind. I just got a positive pre-close. So what am I going to do now that I've gotten a positive pre-close? Okay. All right, we're going to dive into step 8, but before we do, you guys go get something to drink, use the restroom, whatever you need. My phone, Verizon here, says that it's 12:11, and I'm going to start back promptly at 12:25. Oh, and by the way, turn your cameras off and or cover them up or whatever, and then when you're back, you can open your cameras back up, and then I know you're back and you're ready to start back again. And we will we're going to get started. So remember, right before we took the break, we made an assumption. We said that from this point forward, for today, and for today only, for today, we're going to make an assumption that I got to the pre-close. And when we got to the pre-close, we said, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And the customer gave me a positive pre-close. They said, no, it really just comes down to the price. That's it. This is really just about the price. Okay. So now what are we going to do with this? Well, now I'm going to show the customer the price. So I'm going to move into the close. All right. So we have our closing question. Oh, this one's driving me nuts. Hello to everybody. All right. So we are going to move into the close. So I pull the tablet up and I present the customer with the price. Make this bigger so you guys can see it a little better. Now, the way that I like to present price to a customer, and this is just a personal preference, right? I like to show them. I don't know why it takes. This is the way that I like to present price, and I'll explain why. But I like to make this number sound really, really big. I like to make the reference list discount sound really, really big. And I like to make the total price sound really, really small. Okay. And then on the payment terms, I like to make the 24-month payment sound really, really big. The 36-month sound really, really small. And the 48-month sound really, really big. So how do I do that? Well, with projection, speed, tone, the way I use my voice. So it's going to sound something like this. The total retail price for your project is $12,487. Now, you were able to get in touch with 3 of the people on my reference list, and that gives you a $150 discount. And that brings your total down to just $12,337. I never know how people might want to pay for a project like this, so I took the liberty of putting together some payment options. 24 months would be $586 a month. 36 months is just $415, and 48 months would be $330 a month. Okay, so you see how I did that. I try to emphasize all the numbers. I never use the cents because the cents just get really busy. But I like to make that first number sound really, really big. Okay, and the reason that I want this to sound big, I've been price conditioning the customer, and I want that number to feel big. I want this discount to feel big, even though you might argue that, well, $150 off a $12,000 project isn't big. It does send the signal to the customer that, hey, wait a minute, you got a big discount, because we really don't discount that much. Okay, and so your total is just this, and that feels, if I make the number sound small, it feels small. So in this case, the customer ends up paying attention to this number. The reason they pay attention to that number is psychologically, when I present two big numbers and a small number, their brain is going to focus on the small number, whatever it feels like the smallest number. Okay, well, what about payments? Why would I want this number to sound small? Why not this one? Well, because when I'm offering payments to a customer, I don't know if the customer is going to react to the number of months or if they're going to react to the dollar value. In other words, I don't know if a customer is going to say, oh my gosh, 48 months, man, I would never take 4 years to pay for a flooring project. Okay, well, we have a 24-month option or a 36-month option, right? So if they're reacting to the 48 months, I can always move in this direction. If they react to the big number, I can always move in this direction. So I want to focus their brain on the 36 because that allows me to move in either direction, one way or the other, depending on what it is that the customer reacts to. Yeah, Linda.
Arlen, just so when you put these payment terms you're showing is an assumption of a credit rating that they'll reach and numbers and a percentage point that you're able to actually offer them. Do you specify that at all? Or do you just keep it very generic for now and see if they
For right now, it's irrelevant.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason I'm not saying it's irrelevant forever, but for right this minute, it's irrelevant. Okay. And this is something that DAs don't seem to have a problem with this, but franchise owners have a big problem with this, right? Because we feel like we want to, we need to give them all the information up front. And the reality is there's information that the customer needs, but you need to give it to them at the right time. You have not earned the right to talk to a finance company about this particular person's credit until you have landed the job. Okay. When you have landed the job, then you can have that discussion about all the particulars. So I want you to almost think about it. Sorry?
My question is, so this payment amount is based on what interest, and this might differ from actual by what percentage, so that customer will be surprised.
This assumes an interest rate of 12.99. Okay, that's what this is. That's what the tablet does the calculation on. Okay, but at the moment, it's too early to get worried about that.
Okay.
Okay, at the moment, it's too early for that. Okay, now the reality is, if you like the big, small, big, and you see the value of focusing the customer's attention there, great, use it. If you don't, whatever. It is a tactic. It's a tactic that I particularly like because I've seen how I can make it work for me. And I like playing with projection and speed and tone when I'm in the customer's house to emphasize certain things and de-emphasize other things. It's just a tactic, okay? What's the most important thing is that you have offered the customer both options. You have given them the option of a price, and you have given them the option of payment terms. Why do you think that's so important that you offer both?
To give a customer a choice.
Yeah, you've got to give them a choice, right? Okay. Why? What makes that choice so important?
Is if they think the price looks really more than they expected, it gives them an option for a vision of what they might be able to manage.
Okay.
Maybe they can't afford that day and they need payment terms.
Could be.
And they can make the decision whether they are able to make this payment every month. Seeing the numbers helps them to make a decision.
Yep. So here's one of the things that I find really interesting is you present this price to two people. Sorry, this is the best people drawings you get from me. That's it. All right, you present this price to two different people. Exact same project, exact same price. As a matter of fact, it might be in the same house and you're talking to two different partners, husband, wife, you got two different partners here. One of them one of them is going to focus their attention on that price. And that's the only thing they're going to look at. They don't pay attention to payments. They don't think about payments. They don't think about their month. They don't think about their budget in terms of months. They think about their budget maybe in terms of a year. But they look at, when they look at a price, they look at the total price. But for just as many people, when they look at a project, they look at it in terms of what does that do on a monthly basis. Now, maybe you're wired to look at something and just look at the total number and not pay that much attention to the monthly number. Okay. Or maybe you're wired to be the one that looks at it on a monthly basis. There's not a right or wrong here. Okay. This is not a judgment. This is just an observation that some people look at price one way and some people look at price the other way. But I don't know how you're going to look at this price, so I'm going to show it to you both ways. What's really interesting, this goes back maybe a year ago. I was doing this exact same thing. I had a husband and wife team sitting right there. I'd be interested to see if Carly and Miguel look at this differently because they're sitting side by side here, right? But interestingly enough, one of them looked at the price, and that was the number they were focused on, and the other one, in the same household with the exact same financials, because they're together, they've been husband and wife for years, and one of them looks at things from a monthly payment perspective. Can I fit this in my monthly budget? And the other one simply looks at the total price and doesn't care about the monthly number. It was crazy. Linda.
Sorry, that was left over, Arlen.
Oh, that's from before.
I had to take
Got
it down. Sorry.
Okay. So ask yourself this question. When you look at these numbers, do you tend to focus on the total price? Or do you tend to focus on it in terms of like a monthly budget? Okay, and there's not a right or wrong. This is not a judgment.
Total price.
Okay, total price. What I will tell you is, if you're the type of person that looks at it from a total price perspective, you got to watch yourself, because by your nature, you're not going to want to offer financing. If you're the type of person that looks at it from a monthly budget perspective, you have to watch yourself, because you're the one that's going to be afraid to flip a $25,000 price to somebody because it just looks like such a huge number. There's not a right or wrong here. Okay, this is not a judgment about people's finances. This is not a judgment about what money people have in the bank. This is truly from our upbringing and what we've had to deal with in our own lives and people's different biases about money and whatever else. It doesn't matter. I'm not judging any of that. I'm simply looking at this with the realization that for some people, they look at the total price. For some people, they look at payments. And depending on which one you are, you're going to have a bias that way, and you're going to be hesitant to present the other way. And so part of this is, I just want you to be comfortable offering, hey, your total price is $12,337, but I also have payment options. 24 months would be $586, 36 months at $415, 48 months at $330. Just present the option and leave it up to the customer to decide which one they want to focus on and which one makes sense for them. Okay, makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, now, closing question. I'll do that one more time, and now I'm going to add the closing question to this. The total retail price for your project is $12,487. Now, you were able to get in touch with 3 of the people on my reference list, and that gives you a $150 discount. And that brings your total down to just $12,337. Now, I never know how people want to invest in their home, so I took the liberty of putting together some payment options for you. 24 months would be $586 a month. 36 months would be $415, and 48 months would be $330 a month. Once your job is complete, you're 100% satisfied. Would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment options? Liz?
I know I'm probably just getting stuck on this. I'm definitely that whole number person. So I'm just trying to figure out the payment side. And I think what I struggle with on this slide and how it's presented right now, and just tell me to ignore it for now if this is too detailed, but the retail price, the full price, that's like a true number down to the penny. If they commit, like that's the number. And the payment terms, I think saying like 586, like it's so specific, but the numbers, kind of made up. So is it possible when you get to payment terms to be like, oh, for 24 months, it's in the mid 500s or something that like fluffs it
So
a little bit? Just
normally if it changes, it's going to change in the customer's favor. And I've never had anybody get upset because it changed in their favor.
Yeah, that's true. Especially like if I keep tabs on the interest rate and the 12.99, it's so hard to look at it numbers so specific, knowing that it's like made up at this point. So okay.
All right. So listen to the closing question again. I want you to listen really, really careful to how I word the closing question. And there's some things that we can play with and you can make it your own. But there's one part of the closing question that I kind of want to stay tight around. All right. So once your job's complete and you're satisfied with the work, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment options? So what options am I giving the customer to pay for this? What do you hear in that closing question? What do you not hear in that closing question?
A deposit?
Yep, don't care about a deposit yet.
Okay.
Credit cards.
Oh, credit cards. Okay, tell me about that, John.
So yeah, if you're accepting credit cards, do people just add that into the closed question?
I hope not.
So normally people don't use credit card to make big payments like that, and so that's why you're asking for either a check or for payment options. But
no, you'll have a ton of people who do this on credit cards, 100%.
Because
people want airline miles, people want all that stuff. Okay, all right. But I'm going to ask this closing question very specifically. Would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment terms? Or one of the payment options, whatever, right? Personal check or payments. So what are you hearing in this question? First of all, I'm not asking, do you want to do the project or not?
Yeah, you're assuming we're doing it. It's done.
Right. I'm assuming that we're doing it. This is an assumptive closing question. Once your job is complete, I'm asking, how do you want to pay for it? I'm not asking, do you want to do it? I'm assuming you want to do it. Okay.
Right.
Until you tell me you don't want to do it, and then we'll deal with that. Okay. So once your job's complete, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment options? Okay. So this is what's known as an A-B question, right? You have two options, option A or option B. Which one would you like? The human brain can only process so many decisions and so many options at a time. So if I were to say, well, you could pay with a check or a credit card, or we could do a payment terms, or we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this, all of a sudden it's too much, right? So I'm going to limit it to two. And I am purposefully limiting it to these two. And John's question about the credit card is the first question that I'm expecting the customer to ask me. So John, I want you to ask me that question, okay? Hey, John, the total retail price for your project is $12,487. You were able to get in touch with 3 of the people on my reference list. That gives you a $150 discount, and that brings your total down to just $12,337. Now, I never know how people want to pay for a project like this. I took the liberty of putting together some payment options for you. 24 months would be $586 a month. 36 months would be $415, and 48 months would be $330 a month. Once your job's complete and you're 100% satisfied, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment options?
Do you guys take a credit card?
John, if I could do that for you, could we get your job started?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's stop for a second. He says, do we take credit cards? And what did I say?
Absolutely.
No, I didn't. What did I say?
You offered me a favor.
If I could,
get your job
would
started
you?
today.
Why am I asking this question?
Asking for a commitment.
That's it. Okay. So John asked me, do you guys take credit cards? And if I say, sure, we take credit cards. Now what? I didn't get anything in return. I want to get something in return. I want to get information in return. I'm not necessarily asking John to commit to the project, but I want information back, right? If I say, John, if we can do that for you, could we get your job started? And he says, well, I don't know, the $12,000 feels a little high to me. Okay, time out. So this doesn't have anything to do with paying with a credit card. This has to do with whether or not the price is right. Okay, see the difference? Because if he says, can you take a credit card? And I said, well, sure, we can take a credit card. Now what? I've given him an academic piece of information that doesn't mean anything at the moment. I want something in return. If we could take a credit card, could we get your job started today? This is one of the most powerful questions that you can ask a customer. You might have somebody that says, you know, because this is where we are today. Do you guys take Venmo? What are you going to say if somebody says, do you guys take Venmo?
Certainly.
If we can do that for you, can we get your job started today?
There you go. All right. So Carly, are you set up on Venmo yet?
I mean, I got a personal Venmo, so sure, I'll take it. I'll figure it out though.
So, bingo. So if somebody said, would you do Venmo? You'll figure it out, wouldn't you? 100%, right? Why would you let something like that stop you from getting the sale? Okay. Well, do you guys do Cash App?
We'll figure it out.
Okay. If I could do Cash App for you, could we get your job started? I don't have a Cash App account. This business certainly doesn't have a Cash App account. I have no idea. Do you guys take Zelle? I don't know. But if we could do that for you, could we get your job started today? Do you guys take Bitcoin? All right. I don't know if you want to take Bitcoin or not. That's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide. But if I turn to the customer and say, if I could figure out how to take Bitcoin for you, could we get your job started? Notice I'm not committing to taking Bitcoin. I'm asking a question. If we could do that for you, could we get your job started? All I'm trying to do is get information. I just want to know, if I can figure out how to do that, could we get your job started? Right? Okay, let's go. We'll take it one step further. I really want to barter. I've got 6 goats outside. What if we did goats? Hey, if I could figure out how to do goats, could we get your job started? Notice I'm not committing to taking these goats off the guy's hands. All I'm doing is I'm trying to uncover, is that the issue? Now, if he says, well, yeah, if you can figure out how to take the goats, we can get your job started. Well, then now I'm gonna figure out, you know, I don't know, what does that look like? How much are goats worth? I have no idea. Okay. Bitcoin. I don't know if I want to take Bitcoin or not. It seems pretty risky, but you know what? I'll figure it out. And it might be that we come back and decide, you know what? We really can't do the goats. Is there something else that we can work with? Because now what the customer has said is they want to go with this. They're not trying to decide if they want to go with this. They're trying to decide how to pay for it. Okay. And all this question is trying to do, let's pick a different color. All this question is trying to do is I'm trying to determine, is this an if question or is this a how question? If we're going to do the job or how are we going to pay for it? Questions about this? Yeah, Liz.
Yeah, the only thing I'm just actually thinking through how this would look. So if it's goats or, you know, whatever, that we actually need the moment to go back and figure out, like, how do I set up Bitcoin or whatever. But do you still like sign on the spot? Like, it's just you sign the contract and just don't take any payment that day. I feel like, what if you can't
100%.
figure it out? Then you let the customer off the hook.
Well, sure. You could even write it into the proposal that, you know, this proposal is contingent upon us being able to take Bitcoin, and we're going to go figure out how to do that. Or you can write in there that we're going to make a good faith effort to take Bitcoin, but if not, we'll come back and negotiate a different payment method. That's okay too.
Okay.
And
I just wanted to make sure it was something more concrete than just kind of hitting pause.
And by the way, I'm not telling you to take Bitcoin or Cash App or Venmo or Goats or any other thing. I'm not telling you to do that.
That's great. I'm not taking Goats.
Okay, I'm just saying that if a customer says, "Can you do this?" instead of simply answering the question with a yes or no answer, get something in return for your answer. Get information back. Okay? And what the information that's most important to me is that what's stopping you from being able to land the sale? Okay? So how does that look like? Good. If we can do that for you, could we get your job started? Now, going back to Liz's question about, and Mutu's question about interest rates, I want you to think about this the same way. If we could secure a $415 payment for you for 36 months, could we get your job started? It's the same thing. Because I don't know that the finance company is going to give them a 12.99% rate. They might do better, they might do worse. I don't know that it's going to be exactly 415.65. It could be better, it could be worse. I have no idea. What I'm offering is, if we can get you to a 36-month payment at $415 a month, could we get your job started? If the customer says yes, then I now have the go-ahead to go figure out how to get a $415.65 payment plan for them. And maybe it ends up being $399. Who knows? Maybe it ends up being $420. I don't know. But whatever it is, I've offered the customer, if we can do this, can we get your job started? And now they've given me permission to actually go try to do whatever it is, whether it's a payment option, whether it's Cash App, whether it's Venmo, whether it's whatever it is. Okay? Too many times, brand new franchise owners get hung up in the details. And right now, what is the most important thing? The most important thing is to land the plane, land this job, and you can figure out the details of the how later. This is one of the reasons why, especially in the beginning, design associates sell a whole lot better than franchise owners. Because franchise owners get all this detail in their head, and for the most part, design associates are out there, let's just go land a job, for crying out loud. Go land it. Right, Brent? Let's go. Land the job. Okay. All right. Now, I asked the question. Once your job is complete and you're 100% satisfied, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment options? How can the customer answer that question? And I will remind you that literally 30 seconds ago, it feels like forever because we're nitpicking this so detailed. 30 seconds ago, I asked a different question. I said, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And the customer said, no, it really just comes down to price. Now I've shown them a price, and I say, once your job's complete, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment terms? How can the customer answer this question?
I didn't think it was going to be that much money.
Okay, I didn't think it was going to be that much money. How else?
Pay by check.
Okay, they could say, I'll pay by check. Okay, how else could they answer that question?
I want to look at the financing options.
Okay, they could say something about the payments or financing options. How else could they answer?
Different type of payment method.
Okay, different type of payment method. Yep. How else?
I'm not ready to do it today.
Oh, good. All right. I'm not ready today.
I'm not sure my credit card will accept this payment.
Okay. I don't know if the credit card will take it. All right. What else? What else could they say?
What if I'm not satisfied with the work?
Oh, good. All right. So now we can start getting into questions about the work or about timing or whatever else. Good. What else?
I think they'd ask you about the deposit, or you'd have to bring that
Okay.
up.
Might want to ask about a deposit. How else could the customer answer? God, there's a big one. I'm surprised somebody hasn't thrown this one out. At this point, now they've seen my $12,000 price.
Can you?
What's the interest
Do they
rate?
need less?
You know what? I
Right.
might need to get some other estimates. Interest rate. Okay.
Is there
The
any
most
way?
common one, the most common one that you're going to hear, and it's going to come out in different words, right? But the most common one you're going to hear is, oh, wait a minute. Now that I've seen that you're at 12 grand, I think I might need to get those other estimates after all. Okay. That's going to be the most common one that you hear. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take this. And when I ask my closing question, once your job is complete and you're 100% payment or you're 100% satisfied, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment options? The customer, yeah, every possible thing that they say, I can put it into like 5 or 6 different buckets. Okay, the first bucket that I could put in is I could simply say the customer says yes. So in other words, once your job's complete and you're 100% satisfied, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment options? And it's a credit card or Venmo or Cash App, or it's I'll pay you with a check, or I've got a safe in the back. Are you okay taking hundreds? Whatever it is, right? That's all those things can happen. Okay, but ultimately that's a customer saying yes, right? Okay, so I can lump all that together with yes. Or the customer can say some kind of objection. All right. Somebody said interest rate. Yep. So interest rate could be an objection. How might that sound?
Interest
not
rate
sure my
a little bit
credit-
high. I have a lower interest rate on my credit card that I might be able to use instead of financing.
Okay, good. All right. So now somebody says, you know what? I don't know what your interest rate is, but or they may even ask straight up, what these payments, what is this interest rate based on? And you smile real big and look at them and say, well, this is based on 12.99% interest. That'll work for you, won't it? And for some people, they're going to look at you and say, well, 12.99, shoot, my credit card's at 27 right now. Sure, that actually works really good for me. Or somebody else might look and say, 12.99, you got to be crazy. I just went and got my home refinanced for 7. I mean, come on, what's 12.99 sounds like a lot of money. Okay, whatever their response is, it doesn't matter. We're going to work through how to deal with that. But one possible objection is that the customer brings up something about interest rate. Okay. What's another possible objection? Just straight up that the price is too high.
Right.
Okay. 12 grand? You got to be kidding me. 12 grand to do that room? I mean, I know it's a big living room, but please, 12 grand? Okay. What else could they object to?
I'm going to be getting more estimates before I make my final decision.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to introduce you to an objection type that I like to call poo-poo. in a practical world, what can you do with poo-poo? What do you want to
Light
do?
it on fire and throw it at your neighbor's door. Sorry.
That's about the best you can do with it, right? I mean, it makes a mess. It doesn't smell particularly good. I mean, there's not much that you really want to do with it. And you certainly don't want to spend a lot of time with it, okay? So if a customer is saying other estimates, what can I do? I can't tell the customer, well, no, you don't need to get any other estimates. I should have told them that back when I was doing the company story. But now they're saying, remember 30 seconds ago, they said it came down to price. And now they're saying, well, I think I need to get other estimates. Okay, I can't do anything about other estimates. Okay, I'm going to throw that in the bucket of poo-poo. The bucket of poo-poo is also going to hold things like, well, I've got this fence project that I need to do. Okay, well, 30 seconds ago, they didn't say anything about a fence project. 30 seconds ago, they said, no, it really just comes down to price. And now they're saying, well, the fence needs some work, or my daughter needs braces, or my dog is about to die, or they're coming up with all kinds of stuff to get me out of the house, right? It's just poo-poo. The reality is that in the last hour or hour and a half, you guys have become best friends with this customer, and now they really want to let you down easy. Now, this is where, honestly, running appointments in the Northeast has a huge, huge advantage. Because if you're in New Jersey, you're in New York, you're in Pennsylvania, especially around Philadelphia, right? People are going to look at you and say, you're on crack, that price is too high. They're just going to be straight up, right? I mean, it's true. They're just going to jump out there and say, your price is too high. But if you're in, sunny South Carolina, maybe in Southern California, Utah, certainly in the Midwest, I got cussed out one time in Kansas. I didn't even know I got cussed out. Somebody had to tell me later, you just got cussed out. I'm like, I didn't get cussed out. Yeah, you did. But they're very nice. Okay, good. So a lot of times people are going to they're going to really, really nice and politely try to get you out of the house. They're going to say really nice things about you. Okay. So it's brilliant because they're going to come back to you and say, oh, you know what? Everything's so lovely. You did a great job. I absolutely love your company. Everything's so nice. You smell great. Everything's wonderful. But I think we're just going to have to think about this. Can you give us until Friday to think about it, and we'll get back in touch with you? All right, you just got the biggest, most polite shove off you've ever gotten. That means
no.
Get out of my house and never call me again. Where again, if I'm in New Jersey, they look at you and say, you're stupid. This is too high. You're stupid. What are you doing? Okay. So I call it poo-poo, not because it's not real. Poo-poo is very real, but because I really don't want to spend any time with it. Okay. And I'll show you how to deal with that. What's another objection that the customer could throw at me?
It's not a good time right now, or we don't have the time to do it.
It's not a good time. Okay. You know what? I really want to do this. And this is, I'm really excited about it, but this just isn't the right time for us. We just can't do this right now. Okay. And then the other one, which it feels the same as price, but it's not the same as price, is a payment objection. So one person looks at this and says, 12 grand is too high. The other person looks at this and says, $330 a month, man, that's my car payment. Okay. And you have to listen for that because it's two different solves. So in one case, somebody's arguing about the price or they're pushing back about the price. In another case, somebody's pushing back against the payment, and there are two different solves for it. So as a salesperson, you have to listen and you have to understand, am I gonna throw out a solve for the payment, or am I gonna throw out a solve for the price? Okay.
I can kind of relate it to it. When I was working with Toyota, like the car dealership, when you come down to the price, yes, you have that type of customer who want to just focus on the price. Can you lower down? The other one will just focus on the interest rate. The other one just focus on the monthly payment.
Yep,
and then
100%, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, mommy, if you're talking to a Toyota customer, and you've got you got a $650 car payment, and they're like, oh my gosh, $650. I don't know. I need it to be under 500, whatever. And you start throwing out, well, you know, instead of a $48,000 car, we could look at a $43,000 car. It doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't mean anything because you're not talking their language.
Yep.
If they're talking about payments, you have to talk about payments. If they're talking about the price, you have to talk about the price.
Correct.
Right? Otherwise, it doesn't resonate. It doesn't hit. Okay. All right. Let's focus on poo-poo for a second. I don't want to talk about poo-poo because I can't do anything about it. I can't tell you that you can't get your fence fixed. I can't tell you about the dog. I can't tell you not to put braces on your daughter. I can't tell you not to go get other estimates. Okay. And I don't have any control over any of those things. What do I have control over? I have control over my price. I have control over timing. I have control over payments. I have control over interest rates. Those are all things that I can actually do something about. I can't do anything about poo-poo. So my first step, if I ask the customer a closing question and they give me nothing but poo-poo back, my first step is to try to get them to talk about something other than poo-poo. And the easiest way to do that is to get them to move from poo-poo to price. This is what I call a bridge the gap question. And you can ask this question a couple of different ways, okay? It doesn't matter. But I like to ask it this way. Is this price more I like to ask the bridge the gap question this way. Is this price more than you thought it would be? Okay, so let's see how that sounds. The total retail price for your project is $12,487. Now, you were able to get in touch with 3 of the people on my reference list, and that brings your total, that gives you a total discount of $150, bringing the total price of the project to just $12,337. Now, I never know how people want to pay for a project like this, so I took the liberty of coming up with some payment options. On 24 months, it would be $586 a month. 36 months is $415, and 48 months would be $330 a month. Now, once we're complete with the project and you're 100% satisfied, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment options? And the customer says, oh gosh, you know, I'm going to need to get some other estimates. I've got these other projects going on around the house, and I don't know. This is just something that we need to think about. So I get it. You got a lot of stuff going on. Is this price more than you thought it would be? So how are they going to answer that question?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost an automatic. I know the answer to the question, but I need them to say it. I know the answer to the question. Because 30 seconds ago, I said, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And they said, no, it really just comes down to price. Now I've asked them the closing question. They're throwing up all kinds of other stuff. They're not saying anything about price. I actually want them to say something about the price, because now I can do something about the price, but I can't do anything about poo-poo. So they give me a bunch of poo-poo. I'm simply going to ask them, hey, is this price more than you thought it would be? You could ask it another way. Jackie likes asking it this way. How does this price feel to you? Right? She likes asking it that way. It does the same thing. How does this price feel to you? Well, I'm still expecting the same thing. I'm expecting them to say, well, the price, it actually feels pretty high. Right? Because the reality is, what are they objecting to? They haven't said it. They used a lot of poo-poo to try to shove me out the door. But really what they're saying is that your price is too high. But I need them to actually say your price is too high. because I can't put words in somebody's mouth. So if I get a lot of poo-poo, I'm just going to bridge the gap. Is this price more than you thought it would be? Okay. All right. Yes, Chris.
Hey, Arlen, a few times you mentioned you've been able to get a hold of 3 of my references. Did that go on while I was out at the car getting the samples? I missed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when I go back to step 2 and I'm measuring, when I'm estimating, right? I'm not estimating, when I'm inspecting the space with the customer, at the end of step 2, I've given them a reference list and I've told them, go ahead and call these people. And for every person that you get in touch with, I'll give you $50 off the price of the project. Right? So why do I want them to talk to other people? Well, yes, I want them to talk to other people so that they trust me, but it's more for the customer than it is for me. I want the customer to understand what it looks like to work with us. What does it look like to work with Floor Coverings International? Because working with Floor Coverings International looks and feels very different than working with one of the big box stores. So if you decide to do a flooring project with Lowe's or Home Depot, you've got 17 people to talk to, and it's a nightmare. Working with the Floor Coverings International, because we're small and independently owned, each location it's fairly compact. And so what ends up happening is people get a much better experience. They get the experience of working with a locally owned business. Okay, great. So that's what that reference list does. Well, in this particular case, the example that I've thrown up is that somebody got in touch with 3 of the people on the reference list. So here's the $50 per person that I promised. Okay. All right, good. So let's role play this. This is going to be one of the easiest role plays you ever do. So if you ever wanted to jump in and try it, let's try it. I want somebody to ask me, we can start with the closing question, or excuse me, start with laying out the price to me. So you'll start with the total retail price is, work through all that. Ask me the closing question. I promise you all I'm going to give you is poo-poo. And then I just want you to bridge the gap. So somebody that's ready to give this a shot, let's go.
I'll do it.
All right, Leslie.
So I'm supposed to give you the price too. So, Arlen, the price of the floor that we just agreed upon is $12,486, or there's payment options of $586, $415, or 48 months at $330. Other than price and payment, is there any other reason why you wouldn't buy from me today?
Okay. All right. So let's get our pre-close and closing questions straight.
Oh, oops. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. I should have said, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment plans?
Leslie, this has been absolutely phenomenal. And I really, really love that hardwood that you picked out for me. This is just something that, my wife and I don't make a big decision like this on the same day. So could you leave us a copy of the quote and then maybe get back in touch with us next week?
Yeah. Are you concerned about the price, or is that a factor?
Yeah. All right. Bingo. Perfect. Right. So now what are you expecting me to say? I'm probably going to say, well, yeah, the price seems really high to me. Perfectly done.
Okay.
Okay. Perfectly done.
Am I supposed to go on or no?
No, that's it. Okay. Perfectly done. Okay. Good. I'm letting it sort of resonate with people for a second. All right. So the reality is, if you get nothing but poo-poo, just ask. Just, you're not being aggressive. Just ask the question. Is this price more than you thought it would be? Now, you might have softened that up and said, well, yeah, I'll be happy to email it to you. But hey, while I'm here, let me ask, is this price more than you thought it would be? So, you can soften it up a little bit, but otherwise, that's exactly what I want you to do, is ask the question. All right, questions on the bridge the gap technique.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just one more in terms of another potential question that they may ask or object. And so when you present the price, what if they come back at that point and start to negotiate, saying, hey, if you can do it for 10,000 instead of 12,000, I might be interested. Like, how would you normally approach at this point in time in the game?
Mike, if I could find a way to do this project for 10,000, could we get your project started?
Yeah, perhaps.
Okay. All right. So I've got another option that we can look at that would bring your project down to 10,000.
Hey, Arlen, what if customer really need time to think over it?
Okay. But for the most part, when people, when I asked the pre-close, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? Most of the time, if people really do take 3 or 4 days to think about things, they'll tell you that. They'll be like, look, I don't normally make a decision on the same day. This is normally something that takes us 3 or 4 days to sort of hash through. And so we're going to need some time before committing to something. Okay, great. Then I know that going in. But remember, we have made the assumption that I have a positive pre-close. The customer said it just comes down to price. So now that I've shown them the price, now they're asking for more time to decide. Okay, well, what do they need time to decide about? It's the price, but I need them to tell me that it's the price.
Is this where you've already showed them the 3 different options, or is this
Nope.
based off of
This is still on option 1.
the one that they love?
Yep. So we went to one option and we showed them one price.
Okay.
Okay. And when I showed them one price, they said whatever they said. Oh my gosh, I have a tree in the backyard that I have to deal with. Okay, what does that have to do with anything? Is this more than you thought it was going to be? Well, yeah, it's more than I thought it was going to be. Okay, great. Now we're talking about something I can talk about. Now we're talking about price. Okay. Okay. So now that we're talking about price, let's handle the price objection. So there's a technique called the walk of life. And to introduce the walk of life, I need to share something else with you here. If the customer is talking about poo-poo, and if I am unsuccessful, at getting them to talk about something other than poo-poo, what are my chances of landing the sale?
Not good.
0 to none.
0%. Okay. So I can expect a close rate of about 0% if they stay on poo-poo and we don't go anywhere else, right? I can expect a 0% close rate. But what if I can get them talking about price? What should my close rate be if I can get them talking about price? I should be at about a 65% close rate if we're talking about price. So just learning that little technique to go from poo-poo to price, that little bridge the gap, boom, that allows me to increase my close rate from 0 to 65%. Why? What gives me the right to say that, yes, it's a 65% close rate at that point?
Because you can always negotiate price.
But yeah, because I have control over it, right? What can I do to change the price? Well, I could take a room out. I could change from hardwood to LVP or laminate. So I can change the scope. I could take out the furniture move and they can move their own furniture. Or I can take out the removal of the flooring and they can remove their own. I've got 100 different things that I can do to affect the price.
And also we know that price is the objection here.
And now I know that the price is objection and I can deal with that, right? If it's poo-poo, I don't know what we're doing. Okay. What about time? If I can get the customer talking about time, in other words, I think it was Max that said, we can't do it right now. This isn't something we can do right now. Okay. Well, can I solve that? Sure, I can. I can solve it with a deferred payment option. If I can figure out when they can do it. So when would you be in a position to do something like this? Well, I normally get a bonus February, March. I could probably do it March, April timeframe. Great. I got a great idea. We can go ahead and get your floors put in. We'll have them in within the next 2 or 3 weeks. That way you can enjoy them through the fall. I know it was important to you to have these floors done for Thanksgiving and Christmas when you got family coming over. And I'll set it up so that you don't have to pay a dime. You don't pay a single dime until after April of 2024. That'll work for you, won't it? Of course. If time is really the option, Done. Okay. So I should be able to solve a time problem. What about payments? If somebody says, well, that $330 a month, that's just way too high. Do you have tools for fixing payments, for getting them lower? Absolutely.
Yes.
If somebody is dealing with, they're having a heartache over the payments, I should be able to land this job 85% of the time. Why is it so high? Because I can affect the payments. We can take a down payment, and if I take a down payment, that'll drop the payments down.
Yep.
If the down payment doesn't take it far enough, I can always extend the number of months, extend the term. I can get that $330 down payment down to, who knows, $100 a month. That would work for you, wouldn't it? Okay, great. Okay. All right, what about interest rate? Could I solve an interest rate problem?
No.
Of course I can solve an interest rate problem.
You can
I
buy.
can get interest rate down to 0 if I want to.
Exactly. That's what I was
Oh,
just
isn't
going to
it
say. We're working
depending
on that
on the
right now.
credit card score?
Sure. But do I have a tool to influence interest rate? Of course I do. Now, the reality is, if they have bad credit, I don't know that yet.
Okay.
Again, keep in mind, what I'm saying is, if I can do this for you, can we get your job started?
Okay.
Right? If I can get your interest rate down to 0, can we get your job started? Right? So I tell somebody, oh, this is a 12.99% interest rate. And somebody says, oh my God, 12.99, that's way too high. Okay. What would you be able to get at your bank? Well, I think I can get I think I saw where they were doing a special for 9.99 for home improvement projects. Okay. If I could do 9.99 for you, could we get your job started? Well, sure. Okay, great. 9.99 it is. Let's see what we can do. Okay. Sign the tablet, land the sale, and now I've earned the right to go to the finance company and see if I can get 9.99 for them.
Okay, a question, Arlen. How about, yes, if you agree to go with the interest rate day one, and they satisfy and say, okay, if you can get that rate, I can just do the project with you. And at the end of the day, you won't be able to, because you can control the interest rate. So is it gonna make the customer mad and say, you told me you're gonna give me this interest rate and you did not?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not telling anybody that I will do this. What I'm telling the customer is, if I can do this, can we get your job started? Right? So I'm setting the expectation from the beginning. I'm not promising you that I can get you 0% interest. What I'm promising you is, I'm going to try to get you a 0% interest. And if I can do that, can we get your job started? And you say, yes. Okay. So now what? I go to the finance company. They say, no, this person has their credit score. Oh my gosh, we've never seen anything this low. There's no way we're approving this. Okay, great. You know what that means? Not only can I not do it, but nobody else can do it either. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the customer and say, hey, look, we've had an issue with the finance company. Let's see if we can figure another way out to do this. You got some goats in the backyard? I mean, I don't know, but we're going to figure something else out, right? But that's not on me. It's not my fault that their credit's bad, right? My job at this moment is to land the sale. Then I can go to the finance company and we can see what we can do. Okay. All right. So we understand how to move from poo-poo to price, right? I know how to get the customer to stop talking about poo-poo and start talking about price. Now what I've got to do is figure out a way to get them to stop talking about price and to start talking about either time or payments or interest rate. Because if I can walk the customer up this path, every time I make a step, I have a higher and a higher interest rate. I mean, a higher and higher closing rate. Come here, you. Oh, this cat is killing me. Does that make sense? Right? So I want to get them talking about something higher up on this ladder. Yeah, Frank.
No, that makes absolute sense, because the bottom line is you're there to listen and offer them options. And again, like you said, you're not promising them anything. You're there to promise them to make the effort to try and earn that. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Okay. All right. So where I want to go next is I want to walk us through this technique called the walk of life. And what the walk of life is designed to do, it's 3 simple questions, and it's designed to help you move the customer off of price and onto something else. Okay. But it looks to me like it's probably a good time because this is going to take a few minutes to go through. So why don't we do this? Let's take a break. My Verizon time says that it's 1:24. I want to give you guys time to eat, to make some phone calls, to do whatever you need to do. Okay. So can we come back at 2:15 Eastern time? So that gives you a little over, what does that give you? It gives you like 50 minutes, a little over 45 minutes to do what you need to do. And we come back together at 2:15. Does that work? Perfect.
Yes, sir.
And again, I'm going to leave this open, but go ahead and close your cameras. When you are ready to come back at 2:15, turn them back on and try to be really prompt when you come back, and we'll get started right away. And go ahead and turn your cameras back on, and we are going to get started promptly, 2:15. Okay, so before we took a break, we were working with the introduction of the walk of life. And so I'll come back here again. And before the break, we talked about asking a closing question and giving the customer an A/B closing question. So would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment options? And then we talked about this question in particular. If we can do that for you, could we get your job started? So this to me is one of the most powerful questions that you can ask somebody. If I can do this for you, what can I get in return? And in this case, I'm not asking the customer to commit. I'm simply asking, if I can do this, could we do that? We talked about the fact that the customer could just flat out say yes, and that'd be great. Or they could give us an objection. And any objection that the customer comes up with, I can classify into 5 different possible classifications. It could simply be poo-poo, a price objection. It could be a time objection, a payment objection, or an interest rate objection. And with each one of those, there is a different solve. Okay. And we're going to talk about how we're going to move people from talking about price. How do we move them up to where we're talking about time, or we're talking about payments, or we're talking about interest rates? So we're gonna walk through what do each one of those things mean. How do I move somebody up the hill, so to speak? And what do we do with each one of those? Okay. So let's dive right into the walk of life. So somebody has given you a price objection. You've asked them the closing question. Would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment options? And they've either just outright said, this is too much money, I'm giving you a price objection, or they hem and haw and give you a bunch of poo-poo, and you ask them the bridge the gap question, how does this price feel to you? And they say, well, it feels pretty high. Okay, now either way, no matter which path I took to get there, I am now squarely on a price objection. Okay. So we're talking about somebody that has given me a price objection. This price is too high. Good. I like dealing with honesty. Okay. So how am I going to get them to now not talk about price, but talk about something else? So the walk of life, 3 very simple questions. Let's get a blank sheet here. 3 very simple questions. So if I needed to bridge the gap, I used it. Now, walk of life, question number 1. Who remembers it from the homework from last week?
much did you think this project would cost or something like that?
Yep. How much did you think Okay. How much did you think a project like this would cost? So what is the purpose of that question?
To continue the
How
conversation.
you are from each other.
Okay. Mike Hudson, you had your hand up for a second there. I just noticed it.
Yeah, I did. We could keep going on it, but I would like you to kind of give us a couple of, simulated, how would you ask this question without it coming across, well, how much did you think this would cost? Like,
okay,
you're adult.
Perfect. All right. So Mike, I'm going to ask you to be my customer.
Okay.
And when I tell you the price, okay, when I ask you the closing question, I just want you to tell me, man, this price is too high.
Okay.
Okay. So just tell me this price is too, we're just going to be really, so now all of a sudden you're from New Jersey. Now just tell me straight up, the price is too high. Okay. All right, good.
That price is just crazy too high. I didn't, that's just too much.
Okay. Well, Mike, how much did you think a price would be? Or how much did you think a project like this would cost?
I don't know, but I didn't really think it would be $15,000.
Okay, good. Did that feel pushy at all?
No, not at all. Because I just want to make sure that there isn't sort of like a subtle. How do I make sure I don't have like a subtle undertone of how could you be this dumb?
No. Right. Okay. Well, I mean, if I change my tone of voice, I could make it sound that right.
Correct.
Well, dude, how much did you think this was going to be? We can do it that way. But no, this is just, Mike, how much did you think a project like this would cost?
Well, I'm kind of surprised at how it added up to be that much.
Okay, good, right? So what is this question doing? This question is trying to set an expectation or to understand the customer's expectation. All right, and normally, when somebody answers this question, they're either going to give you a dollar amount or they're going to give you well, I don't know how much it was going to cost, but it didn't feel like it was going to be this high. Sometimes, okay, I throw you a $12,000 price. Well, how much did you think a project like this would cost? Well, I don't know, but I've had 3 guys in already giving me estimates and all of them were under 10. Okay, great, under 10. Okay, that's it. That doesn't mean that I have to meet under 10. It doesn't mean that I'm trying to match under 10. It's a piece of information. Okay, you thought that this project was going to be under 10. Or you'll have people from time to time that say, I don't know how much it was going to be. I watch a lot of HGTV and it seems like you can do a whole house for $12. So I don't know. Okay.
Or somebody could say, gee, I just see all these Empire Today commercials on TV and they make it sound like it's just snap of fingers and you can get a room done for $100.
Yeah, I mean, some little cartoon guy comes out and rolls out carpet and you're done. I mean, the furniture moves itself, for crying out loud. I mean, it's just easy, right? Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Question number 2. Now we're gonna start to dissect. Question number 1 is pretty benign. How much did you think a project like this would cost? You really can't go wrong with that unless, to Mike's point, unless you make it sound like you're an idiot. How much did you think this was going to be? No, I mean, unless you do that. Yeah, let's see, Chris. You're muted, Chris.
Earlier in the appointment, haven't we seeded the idea of, hey, this looks like it's going to be a, $10,000 to $14,000 job?
Yep. If I've done a nice job price conditioning, then yes.
Okay.
Yep. As a matter of fact, a lot of times, if you price condition well, when you flip the price, they're going to feel like this price is low compared to what they thought it was going to be.
Or they expect it that it might be coming.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So the second question. Now that you see
That's all.
Okay. Now that you've seen the price and you see what we do and how we do it, can you see why this is more than you thought it would be? All right, so what is this question doing? Well, this question is meant to remind the customer of our value proposition. Okay. Okay. But we need to dissect this question a little bit. When did the customer learn what we do and how we do it?
Arlen, the other day I was on giving the company story about 3/4 of the way through. The woman actually said, you know, based on what you're showing right now, this is going to be more than what we're probably going to want to pay. I mean, this directly relates to this right here.
It does, exactly. When do we tell the customer what we do and how we do it?
Company story.
Yeah, it's in the company
video.
story.
Yeah.
Okay, it's in the company story. I'll have franchise owners, not so much DAs, but I'll have franchise owners ask me, well, do I really have to sit down with them with the tablet and show them the slides and go through the company story? Or can I just walk around the house and just sort of give them all the information while we're walking around the house? Which one actually lands this point? Well, actually sitting down and taking time and going through the company story with somebody, that actually lands the point. If you're just sort of walking around with them and throwing little tidbits here and there, it doesn't really stick. It doesn't really hit home. Okay, so what do you want to do? I want to actually sit down and go through the company story with them. Now, I want to make it fun. I want to make it engaging. I want to make it so that they want to hear it. I have to get good at it, right? So remember, we were talking earlier about skills. You don't just learn the sham god move right away. You got to practice it. Okay, good. So if I'm going to practice something, I'm going to actually get good at something, then my company story should be riveting. Somebody should want to hear what I have to say. Okay. All right. So great. But we need to dissect this question. Now that you see what we do and how we do it, I want you to take as many liberties as you feel like you need to take with this question. What do I mean by that? Let's say that you had a customer, that you have a customer, and from the very beginning, this customer has talked about how contractors and installers, they've had contractors in their house and they didn't do a particularly good job and whatever else. Okay, well, you might change the wording here. You know, you might say, well, now that you see what we do and you see how we vet the installers that we work with, can you see why this is more than you thought it would be? Or maybe the customer absolutely fell in love with the carpet, and the thing that they absolutely loved about the carpet was this lifeguard. They've never seen anything like it. I mean, you poured water on it and it never came through, and they were just so taken by that they felt like they absolutely had to have this lifeguard carpet. Well, you know, now that you see what we do and the quality of the materials that we sell, can you see why this is more than you thought it would be? Okay, so the point is, I want you to take the first part of this question and I really want you to make it specific to the customer. So this bit, embellish it, customize it. Customize it based on this customer's experience. I mean, you're in the home, you know what's important to them. You're the only one that knows what's important to them. So customize this question according to what is important to them. All right, now the second half of this question, though, I want you to be careful, because I've heard people take the second half of this question and twist it a couple of different ways and actually make it so that it hurts them rather than helps them. So let's talk about how you can make it hurt you. Well, now that you see what we do and how we do it, Can you see why this is a little more than you thought it would be? Why would somebody add those two little words? Now that you see what we do and how we do it, can you see why this is a little more than you thought it would be?
Just a little more for the value and the service that you get with us.
Okay.
A little more. It's, sounds better than just more. Gives them
But who does it sound better to?
The customer.
Does it?
I think so.
Dave, you just told me that this was going to be 12 grand. And I told you that the last three guys that came in here were all around the 8,000 to 9,000. You're telling me that $3,000 or $4,000 is a little more? That doesn't sound like a little more to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I apologize, but I'm just going to say it. The only person this helps is whatever chicken shit it is that's asking the question. Don't be a chicken shit and just ask the question. You're too scared to stand on your own price if you start adding the words a little bit. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to embellish the top part of this. Now that you see what we do and how we do it. Hey, now that you see how we individually vet installers and we use the absolute best materials and best installation techniques that are out there, can you see why this is more than you thought it would be? And I'm not going to hide behind the words a little bit, because that little, for some people, it won't matter. It really won't. But for some people, if you say a little more, you're minimizing the difference, and that can actually be fairly offensive.
Yeah, so Arlen, what about the situation where you're getting into this dialogue and it's really, they're just wanting to whittle down the number, they just want to, squeeze you some.
That's okay. We'll get to that.
I know margins are our decision on it, but
no, I don't train touching margins, because I don't have to train that. You can play with margins all you want to. This is, I want you to be able to sell the customer at the price. I want everybody on this call, I want you to be able to get to a 50% close rate at a 50% gross margin. That's my goal for you. You should be able to get to a 50% close rate at a 50% margin. Now, you won't be there on day one. It takes practice to get to that point. It takes practice to get to a 50-50. But you can get there. No problem. I say no problem if you put in the work, but it takes work to get there. All right. The other thing that I see that people do here, and they don't realize they're doing it. People don't realize they're putting in that word a little bit either. Now that you see what we do and how we do it, can you see why this is the price? So they'll like cut the question off right here. And they'll say something like, well, now that you see what we do and how we do it, can you understand why this is the price? Okay, well, if I understood why this was the price, I would have signed the tablet already. The reason that I'm objecting is because I don't understand the price. The reason I'm objecting is because I think the price is too high. So in this case, you don't realize it, but you're asking the customer to justify your price. Well, I don't want to ask the customer to justify my price. That's not the point. So I'm not going to do this either. I'm simply going to say, and I'm going to embellish the first piece of this. Hey, now that you see how we operate, you see the quality of the materials we use and the installation techniques that we use, can you see why this is more than you thought it would be? It's that simple. I'm reminding them of the value proposition, and I really want to customize it to what was important to them. That's it. And this is a simple yes/no question. Can you see why this is more than you thought it would be? That's it. And they're going to say, yes, I get it. This is more. Now, I'm not asking them to defend it. I'm not asking them to like it. I'm not asking them to pay it. I'm just asking, can you see that this is more than what you thought it was going to be? Okay. All right. Who's ready to have some heartburn? We ready? Question number 3. Okay. Question number 3. Now that you've seen the price, how long would it take for you to come up with the rest of the money? All right, who's having a little heartburn right away, just immediately? Yep, okay, that's good. Who's not having heartburn? They're like, no, this is just a question. Brent's ready. Brent, are you comfortable with this question, or what makes you comfortable with this question? You're muted. You hit it twice. There you go.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I'm comfortable with the question because this is going to get down to the real meat and potatoes. This is where either we're going to move forward right now and get a signature, or we're going to get down to talking numbers and get all the other poo-poo out of the way.
Good deal. Okay. There is a key phrase in this question. That key phrase is how long? John.
So major risk here of me looking like this being a stupid question.
Good.
Have we not pivoted to other options yet?
Not yet. Nope. So one thing to keep in mind, I mean, today we're deep diving in this, right? We're going really, really deep in this. And I mean, we're spending several hours deep diving this. This whole conversation takes about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, as well as how long, gives the customer like they can wait a little bit, right?
So the whole point of asking the how long question, now that when I find out how long it would take, the how long, I'm going to get 3 possible answers. Okay. So if I ask you this question, now that you've seen the price, how long would it take for you to come up with the rest of the money? And by the way, you can reword this question. It's fine. But the key is how long. You have to find out the answer to the question, how long? Okay, now that you've seen the price, how long would it take for you to come up with the rest of the money? There's only 3 ways that the customer can answer this question. What's one way that the customer can answer this question?
Never, it's too much.
Good, all right, never. Okay, so the first thing that somebody could say is, look, I'm just not spending 12 grand in this house. It's not going to happen. Okay, good. So if you get never, what are you going to do with that?
Go to a cheaper option.
Yeah, guess what? This is when I now get to move to option 2. 2 or 3 or 4 or wherever I'm at. Okay, so that's fine. Go ahead, Mike.
So Arlen, we've brought in more than the boards for option 1 at this point, right? So we brought in 3 or 4 option 1 boards. They pick something off of that. We drop it into our sort of pre-set up proposal.
Yep.
And they puke on the price, and then at some point they're going to say, well, you brought in these other boards. I mean, can you not show me that?
So what normally happens?
Do you pivot to that?
Yep. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to control what the customer sees. I'm not trying to hide something, but I am trying to control the dialogue. So when I walk in, oftentimes I'll leave those other boards in the foyer. I'll leave them on the front porch, and I'm going to focus on my option 1 boards. Okay. So the customer picks a board. Oh, I love it. This is the one I got to have. Great. Hey, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? No, it just comes down to price. Okay, great. I show them the price. Would you be in a position to pay with a check or take advantage of one of the payment options? Oh crap, that's a lot of money. Oh, is this more than you thought it was going to be? Oh yeah, that's a lot more. Well, how much did you think a project like this was going to be? Well, shoot, I mean, everybody else that's come through has been around $8 grand. Okay, well, now that you see what we do and the quality of the materials that we use, can you see why this is more than you thought it was going to be? Oh yeah, I can see why it's more, but I mean, 12 grand for this house feels like a lot. Okay, I get that. While I'm here, let me ask you another question. Now that you've seen the price, how long do you think it would take for you to come up with the rest of the money? Yeah, you know what? It's not about coming up with the rest of the money. I'm just not going to spend 12 grand on this project. Perfect. You know what? I've got another option that we can look at. Let's take a look at that and see if that fits better in your price range. And it's fair. This is a fairly quick process. For us, it feels like, my God, we're going to be in there for 6 hours because we're deep diving this thing, right? But we're not going to deep dive it in the house. We're going to move through the questions and get the answers and move on to the next thing. Okay. So how else could the customer answer the question? How long would it take? How else could they answer that?
6 months.
Yes, 6 months, right? So Leslie, I'm going to call that a very specific time. Okay, so that might be 6 months. It might be Christmas. It might be tax season. It could be bonus season. In any one of these cases, excuse me. In any one of these cases, the customer has a very specific timeline in play. All right. How else could the customer answer the question?
They could kind of punt and say, I'm going to go back and take a look at finances and, or maybe it's talking to a spouse or something to come back on that one.
Okay. So it might be that the customer says, look, I don't really know. It could be 2 years. It could be 3 years. It could be 10 years. I don't really know how long. What are they not saying? They're not saying, I don't want to do the project. They're saying, I'm not sure how long it's going to take, right? So if that's a specific time, let's say this is a unspecific. I don't even know if that's a word. Unspecified is a word. Right? So it could be 2 years. It could be, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. It could be, I don't know. Right? Okay. If the customer gives me a specific time, like they say, this is going to be 6 months, or this is going to be after Christmas, how are you going to solve that problem for them?
Financing.
Okay, but John, specifically, what type of financing?
Deferred payment financing.
Yeah, a deferred payment, right? So it's what I like to call no interest, no payment, or deferred payment. Okay, I could do a 6 month, or maybe I could do a 12-month, no interest, no payment. So what would that look like? Oh, this is fantastic. We could get your project started. We'll have this installed within the next 3 weeks. That way you can enjoy it you can enjoy it at Halloween, Thanksgiving, through the holidays, everything. And I'll set it up so that you don't have to pay a dime until March of 2024. That'll work for you, won't it? Okay, so what does that do? Well, that either solves the customer's problem or the customer brings up another problem. Okay, well, that's fine. So if we've solved the problem, then they sign the deal and we move on. If they say, well, I'm just not sure, that still feels like a lot of, okay, great. Let's take a look at another option, right? It doesn't matter. It literally does not make any difference what excuse the customer gives me. You have an out for everything.
I have a question really quickly about like the deferred payments. So that means you do the job and you wait 6 months before they pay the job?
Yes.
So you're
But that doesn't mean you wait 6 months to get paid.
Okay, that's if we do the payment options through whatever
Right,
financial.
through whatever finance company you've signed up with, right? So what does that look like? When you do the job, the finance company pays you, and then the customer has whatever the program is. Let's say it's 6 months deferred payment. So now the customer has 6 months to pay the finance company. What if they don't pay the finance company? Well, then the finance company goes after the customer. You've already got your money. You're out of it. That's the beautiful thing about financing.
Yeah, I've just never seen them offer the deferment payment. That's why I was just curious.
You don't have to be the collection agent. You absolutely do not have to be the collection agent. When the payment, when the job's done, the finance company pays you, you have your money, and now the finance company can worry about getting their money from the customer down the road. You're not the bank, and you're not the collection agent. All right, how are you going to solve it if it's an unspecified time?
That's pretty challenging as far as I'm trying to see a recourse as far as being able to solve that when you're getting nothing back from them as far as trying to figure out how long that's going to take for them to get that resolved.
Maybe you could talk to them. Maybe you could talk to them about what kind of a payment they'd be comfortable with.
Yeah, there you go. This one's actually pretty straightforward. This, I'm just looking for monthly payments. Somebody says, gee, I don't know. It could be 2 years. It could be 3 years. It could be 5 years. Okay, great. I tell you what, let's go back to our, where'd it go? Let's go back to this one. Okay. All right, great. So which one of these payments would work best for your budget? Well, I don't know. $330 a month still feels pretty high. Okay. How am I going to get the payment down for this customer? How can I get the payment down?
Interest rate of time.
Deposit.
Longer term.
Okay.
Do you have a down payment you could put up?
Yeah. So the very first thing I want to do is see if I can put a down payment in place. All right. Why do I want to go to down payment first? And by the way, it has nothing to do with a finance fee or dealer fee or any of that other nonsense. Why do I want to go to the down payment first?
Land.
Getting in the
This
game.
is the
Level of
monthly payment.
commitment.
Yeah, there's a level of commitment, but more than that, this will reduce that faster than anything else.
Yes.
Yeah, Andrea.
When did you check if they have credit enough?
I can't. I don't have the right to ask about credit until I have a landed job. I can't do anything. I cannot call the finance company and say, hey, I'm at a customer's house and you know what? We might land a job here. Can you run the credit for this customer? It doesn't work that way. You have to have a landed job. You get the signature on the tablet, then you can go to the finance company. Okay, so what happens if the finance company turns them down? Well, then they turned them down. I mean, there's only so much you can control in life, right? You've tried to go to the customer and say, hey, if we can get this done, great. But then the customer's credit's crap. Okay, well then we couldn't get it done.
Okay, got it.
Okay, all right. So the reason I want to take a down payment first is quite frankly, because nothing is going to reduce that number faster than taking a down payment.
Yep.
So what would that sound like? Did you have some money set aside for a project like this? Well, with your permission, let's put that number right here and let's see what that does to your payments. Oh, it brings your payments down to $250 a month. That would work for you, won't it? Oh, it's still too high? Well, I'll tell you what, let's do one more thing. Why don't we take and we'll change the term. It's from 48 months. Let's push this out to 84 months and see what that does. Or let's push this out to 96 months. This is where you have to know what your programs allow you to do, right? How far can you go? I mean, I worked with Green Sky at one point. They had a program that would go all the way out to 144 months.
Wow.
Okay, great. 144 months. That brings your payment down to $98 a month. That'll work for you, won't it? Okay. Now, the customer still might come back and say, yeah, you know what? I think the price is, I just think this is going to be more than what we can bite off right now. Okay, where am I going to go then?
Go to
Your other
lower
options.
Go to another option.
Option 2 or 3.
Yeah, right. So the beauty of this is once I've engaged in the walk of life, all I have to do is listen. This is the hardest part. I have to listen. And then I'm going to ask the questions without any fear. I'm going to ask the questions because these are now diagnostic questions. At this point, I don't even consider that I'm trying to sell the customer. I'm not trying to sell the customer. I'm trying to help the customer figure out how they can do the project.
Mhm.
Right? At this point, they've essentially said that they want to work with me. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. They want to work with me, and I'm trying to figure out how to work with them. Now, it might be that for this option, I can't help them, and we have to drop to another option. Okay, we drop to another option, but we still get the project done for them. It might be that they thought they were going to get a 12.99% interest rate, but the credit came back and it was 16.99. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the customer and we're going to sign it on a 16.99. Not a big deal. Or the customer says, no, I won't do it for 16.99. Okay, well, have a nice day. I mean, it's okay. You either do the job or you don't do the job. It's not the end of the world one way or the other. You know, keep in mind, these are floors. We're not doing brain surgery. We're not doing rocket science. You're putting carpet in somebody's house. Questions? All right, I want to try to tie all this together. We've gone through a bunch. I want to try to tie this all together. So I'm going to pull my tablet up onto the screen. If it will pull up here, come on. There it goes. Okay, so I've got a proposal already pulled up here. And we'll just play with this and see what it does. All right, so let's see, Dave, I'll let you be the customer this time through. You get the easy job. So Dave, I'm going to ask you the pre-close question. So right now you're not looking at the tablet. You don't get to, you see it on my screen, but right this minute, if we were in the home, you don't get to see this. So I'm going to ask you the pre-close question. Dave, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today?
Is it me, Arlen?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I just think it's a little bit more than what I thought it was going to be.
Okay. All right. Time out. You don't see this yet. Okay. You're not seeing,
I'm sorry.
You don't get to see that yet.
Gotcha.
Okay. So right now you've just picked out this beautiful hardwood floor. You love it. Dave, this is the one you love?
Yes.
Fantastic. So Dave, do you have any questions for me about what would happen and how we would get this project done?
I don't.
Right, well, I have a question. Where did my proposal go? Must be this one. Nope, it's not that one. All right, I'm going to have to create one real quick. All right, sorry. No, there it is. It disappeared and came back. Good. All right, so Dave, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today?
I don't see any reason, no.
Okay. Well, look, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help you get the floors that you love and deserve. The total retail price for your project is $7,629. Now, you were able to get in touch with 3 of the people on my reference list, and that gives you a $150 discount. So that brings your total down to just $74.79. Now, I never know how people want to invest in their home, so I took the liberty of putting some payment options together for you. 24 months would be $355 a month. 36 months is just $251, and 48 months would be $200 a month. So once we're complete and you're 100% satisfied, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment options?
I would probably take advantage of one of the payment options, and that is an honest answer because I would finance.
Okay, perfect. So Dave, is there one of these payment plans that works better for your budget?
Well, I would definitely want the smaller payment plans and just in the hopes that I could pay it off earlier.
Yeah, there's no problem with that. None of these have prepayment penalties, so you can, by any stretch of the imagination, pay it off early. Does the $200 a month work for you?
It does.
All right, perfect, done. Welcome to the Floor Coverings International family. Okay, that's easy.
And I
right.
really am easy, so I buy the first car every time.
Perfect. All right, but what if he had said, yeah, you know, $200 a month, that's just not going to work for me. I mean, I could probably do it, but I don't want to stretch the budget that tight. Okay, great. Well, Dave, did you have some money set aside for a project like this?
So if I put some money down, that would obviously lower my payments. That would be good, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Did you have something set aside?
I do.
So how much did you have set aside?
I don't have a whole lot, but I might be able to do 2,000 down.
No worries. So with your permission, I'm just going to put the 2,000 in the down payment box here. All right. And that would bring that 48-month payment down to 146, almost 147 a month. That would work for you, wouldn't it?
That sounds much better. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, what if he said, yeah, you know, the 148, that still seems a little high to me. Okay, great. Well, Dave, one other thing that we can do, I know you talked about wanting to be able to pay it off early with a lower monthly commitment, so to speak. What if we went in here and made this an 84-month term? That brings your number down to, I mean, it's right at $100 a month. That'd work for you, wouldn't it? And of course, you can always pay it off early.
Absolutely, yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so the tablet is set up for you to be able to make these moves on the fly. Okay, so if I'm dealing with payments, the first place I want to go is to try to put in a down payment. And the reason I want to go there, I mean, you saw when I put a $2,000 down payment in, it dropped it. Let's go back and do this again, just for fun. When I put in his $200 or $2,000 down payment, it dropped it. Oh, come on. Fingers don't work. It dropped it like $55 right away. And then, yep, I got the other 45 by pushing it out quite a ways. I mean, if I'd gone out to 72, it wouldn't be quite as big of a drop. No problem with that. 109. If I had said, look, the longest term I've got is 144, that takes you down to $75 a month. I know that'll work for you. Okay, I mean, maybe you don't want to show the customer a 12-year payment plan, whatever. You just have to know what you have. I will tell you, if you think with your wallet, there's going to be some things that you don't offer the customer. I mean, how many of you, show of hands, how many of you would actually want to do a 144-month payment plan? Well, depends. Honestly, it depends. You know, my wife and I are looking at a house that I want to get and flip. I mean, this is a true story. The house popped up on Zillow today, and it's a house that I am interested in getting and flipping. Well, I know that if I flip this house, the way the market is, it's not going to stay on the market very long. So I don't really care what the interest rate is. I'll pay an 8% interest rate. I don't care, because it'll take me 2 or 3 months to flip it. So I'm not really going to pay interest for that very long. And in a situation like that, having a $75 a month payment for floors, you know what? I'll live with that. I'll do a $75 a month payment for floors. Yeah, I don't care that it says 144 months, because the reality is I'm only going to hold the loan for 3 or 4 months anyway. As soon as the house sells, bam, I'm going to dump it off anyway. So how much of my money did I spend on floors? maybe $300, maybe, right? And I don't care because I'm going to turn around and flip the house and sell it anyway, right? So if you think with your wallet and say, golly, who wants to hold a loan for 12 years on floors? I mean, my gosh, the carpet will wear out before you pay it off. You can't think that. You can't use that logic. You have to let the customer look at what their situation is and act accordingly. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, so I want to give you guys a chance to sort of practice this, and I know it's going to feel awkward because you haven't done it much. I'm going to shoot you guys off into breakout rooms. If you've got your tablet, maybe you've got an exercise already loaded up for this evening, and I just want you to start with the pre-close question. So you'll start, your tablet's going to be back over here on this page, and you'll ask the customer, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And they're going to say, you're going to have to give them a positive pre-close. So no, it really just comes down to price. Okay, good. Well, give them a commitment statement. I promise I'm going to do everything I can to help you get to these floors. Open up the price and payment sheet. The total retail price is, you got in touch with X number of my references. That brings your total down to. Present the payment terms to them and ask them the closing question. And then see where you go from there. I'm expecting that you're going to get stuck. And when you get stuck, reach out to me. Yeah, Jeremy.
I'm sure there's a reason for this, but why does this say retail price? Why do we want to remind our customer that this is more of a retail price versus, you know, I mean, in my mind, when I hear the word retail, that kind of makes me think it's a premium price.
You know, that I've never been asked that question. I don't know. It could just say price. And that'd be a pretty simple, thing to change. At the end of the day, though, the customer is paying retail price. They're not paying, we're not offering wholesale pricing on this. I mean, you are a retailer, so that is their retail price. I don't know. But that would actually be something to maybe take back to the technology task force and say, hey, look, can we change that from retail price to just say price? It's okay. All right, let me get the breakout rooms situated. Oh, Liz says not at 12.99. Beautiful. I love it. So I'm going to work through that one with Liz. Liz.
Yeah.
Total retail price for your project. Let's reset this. And I want you to, I want you to nail me on the interest rate. All right. The total retail price for your project is $7,629. Now you got in touch with 4 of the people on my reference list. Good job. That gives you a $200 discount, which brings your total down to just $74.29. I took the liberty of putting together some payment options. 24 months is $342 a month. 36 months is $239, and 48 months is $188 a month. But once we are complete and you're 100% satisfied, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check, or would you want to take advantage of one of the payment options?
At 12.99, I'd use the personal check option.
Oh, well, great. Welcome to the Floor Coverings International family. God, that was simple. All right, but you don't, okay, so as a customer, where do you see the interest rate?
Oh, it got changed to IR right now.
Yeah, it's not, the customer doesn't see it.
Oh.
The customer doesn't see it. It shows up on your tablet just like this with an IR. Now, if the customer says, well, hey, what's the interest rate on that? Oh, it's 12.9. I always say it like it's the best news of all time, right? Like, oh my gosh, they just came up with a chocolate that's 0 calories. It's fantastic. And you can't taste the difference. Look at this. This is great. This is a 12.99% interest rate. Isn't that wonderful? And people look at me like I'm crazy. 12.99. What rock have you been living under? And I actually want that reaction. I want that reaction, because then I can ask the question, well, what do you think you could get somewhere else?
Well, and these are also still placeholders. So wouldn't I also kind of position this as like, oh, just to kind of have this conversation right now, we've used 12.99 in the placeholder. but we'll actually run your credit and see what you get. Because the other thing that's, at least for me, is it's 12.99 across the board, but in reality, when you run credit, the 24 month is probably going to have a lower interest rate than the 48.
Yep,
But,
absolutely.
details for later.
Yep, details for later. Exactly. And so you can position it that way, right? 12.99. Well, Liz, if we could get a 9.99% interest rate for you, could we get your job started? Again, all that's doing is asking the question if, right? It's not saying I'm promising you a 9.99. It's the same thing as saying, if I could take Cash App, could we get your job started? Well, if I could do a 9.99% interest rate, could we get your job started? Linda.
Yeah, Arlen, you said it won't show the percentage, but on my tablet, it's showing the number. So I'm just trying to see if I'm doing something wrong, or it says 12.99 on
Oh, that's
mine.
interesting, because it should come up like this, where it just says IR. I mean, you
Looks
can
like
back it out.
Yeah.
Got the same thing. Can I
And it
change
did
that on the
change it,
fly though? Can I
Yep.
change I can.
100%. So I can put in notice. Okay, it says 100 and I'm looking at the 48-month payment, 188.38. If I put in 9.99 and move away from it, come on. It should change it. Come on. Oh, I must have already done that. Let's do a bigger jump. Yeah, 174. 12.99 gives me 199. Okay, so it was already in the 9.99. What if I put in 24.99? Good. That's 246. Okay, great. Well, that's what your credit card's going to charge you. And actually, I mean, it used to be 2 or 3 years ago, 12.99. I'd get a lot of weird looks. Today, honestly, 12.99 is not a bad interest rate for an unsecured loan. I know when you're looking at it compared to a home loan, that's one thing, but somebody can repossess a home or foreclose on a home. It's really, really hard to repo a floor. So this is actually considered an unsecured loan. Mike.
All right, Arlen, really quick, so you're saying that ours should have a blank for the interest rate there?
Yeah, if
Because
it
mine
doesn't, you
definitely
can
doesn't.
if it doesn't, you can click in there and just back it out.
Right, but then it's going to go, when I do that, it goes to a 0% interest payment.
That's interesting.
The example I'm using goes to $236 for 24 months versus
okay.
like $300
well, then
or something.
That's changed, and now it shows 12.99. It didn't before. Okay.
At 0%,
So
then you definitely get my business.
Yeah.
With those payment
Perfect.
terms.
Heck yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Mike.
Yeah, I was just wondering, at what point do you think there's too much signaling of discounting? Because, some of the secret shopper stuff, and we've heard from other folks, is that, Empire will they'll give you a quote, and then tomorrow they're going to call you and cut it, 50%.
Well,
do you think
they're not going to cut
are
it 50.
conditioned to just know that all this stuff, they think, well, all this floor pricing is just sort of inflated so that they can show that they're cutting a bunch of stuff?
Well, I mean, the only discount that I'm showing you a reference list discount. That's it. And part of the reason that I like having it this way is that I'm not showing you a 50% discount. I'm not showing you that I'm cutting $3,500 off. I'm showing you that I'm cutting $200 off. That is the discount, which should signal to the customer that this is a lot tighter pricing than what Empire does. And yeah, Empire, I don't like Empire's methods. I mean, it works, but it's a high pressure close. And I'm not a big fan of it because it does put a lot of pressure on the customer to make a decision right this minute.
Hey, Arlen.
Yeah.
When you, if you were to run someone's credit, you would obviously need all of their information, including their social security number, correct?
Yes, you do.
How do they feel about that? Just know, before you even run their credit, that you're.
So most of the programs that are out there, in fact, probably all of them, have their own unique apps. And so they're not giving you their information. They're putting that information on some supplier's webpage or whatever. I mean, it's no different than If you go to get a loan, you're filling out a form online, on a secured website. The nice thing is that you're not collecting that information.
So the customer is doing the application?
Yes. Yep. Mike.
Yeah, on the tablet, are we supposed to have a specific appointment or just using a blank training for this?
Just training. It's fine. Just a training task is fine.
Okay.
So Arlen, are you going to get to sort of how you would transition to if somebody says, well, geez, how can you start sharpen your pencil on that 12.99? And you're like going,
oh, good question. Good question. All right. So we'll just use this, right? So Mike wants to do business with me, but he wants me to shave my price a little bit. Okay. I like this. So Mike, if we were to move forward with this, I know you're wanting me to sort of sharpen my pencil. If I could sharpen my pencil and we could move forward, how would you be paying for this? Would you be paying with a credit card, with a check? I mean, how would you be able to do this?
well, I can give you a down payment with the check, but on the monthly payments, I really got to see you sharpen the pencil on that 12.99. I mean, I've got sterling credit, so I should be able to do better than that. I mean,
okay. All right. So you're talking about sharpening the pencil on the payments, not so much on the total price.
Correct. Yeah. So somebody looks at the 12.99 and they're
perfect.
Like, all of our reactions on 12.99 is, but they don't know it's unsecured. They look at, what can I get a home equity loan for or other things.
Right. So Mike, here's what I would suggest that we do. Let's go ahead and sign the tablet, knowing that this is all contingent on you getting a favorable interest rate. Okay. And let's run this through the financing company and see what the exact interest rate is that comes back.
And I say, okay, so, as a customer, it's like, all right. So if the interest rate just isn't right, then we can just sort of pause, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to. Okay, sure.
But what if they did want you to sharpen your pencil and take more off the price?
Okay, all right. So let's go down that path. So Leslie, if we were to move forward with this, would you be paying like with a check, with a credit card? How would you be in a position to pay for something like this?
I'd like to pay for a check, but it's just a little bit too high. So I was hoping maybe we could do something to bring it down a little bit. Perfect.
Well, here's the deal. Every time I process a credit card, I end up paying the bank a 3.5% fee for using a credit card. The banks have enough money. And quite frankly, I would rather give you that money than give that money to them. So how about this? If you'll write a check, instead of using a credit card, if you'll write a check, I'm going to take that $74.29 and give that 3.5% to you. So that's a discount of $260 for a cash. That's a cash discount. And that would bring your total to $71.69. Okay, that's where I go with it. Now you might take a different approach. You might say, the customer comes back and says, well, no, I need to pay with a credit card. I can't write a check for that much, but I could do it on my credit card. Okay, you know what? Marketing is a real expense for me. And it is. Once you guys start paying for PPA appointments, you'll know how real of an expense it is. All right, so you know what? I would really like to be able to get some references from you for people in the neighborhood that maybe it's on your Facebook page, people that are looking for flooring. And what I'd be willing to do is I'd be willing to give you a $250 discount, knowing that you're going to give me, make up a number, knowing that you're going to give me 2 referrals. I don't know, make that up. But I don't want to give something for nothing. If I tell you that, well, sure, I can give you a $250 discount. Well, that leaves the customer scratching their head going, well, why not 300? Why not 500? Why not 1,000? If you tie it to something very specific, then it's like, oh, okay, that's where the money's coming from. I mean, I even like, especially in follow-up, I love going back to a customer and saying, hey, look, we just landed another job. It's not the exact same product, but it's coming from the same warehouse, which most of the time is true because most of the time it's coming from Shaw or Mohawk or whatever. It's coming from the same warehouse. And if I'm buying from the same warehouse, I can I can get a discount on freight because I'll pay one freight fee. So instead of charging you for that freight, I'd love to be able to take that money off of yours. So maybe this becomes a freight discount, you know, and I'll give you a $250 freight discount. The point is, I want to tie it to something very specific. Okay, well, what if $250 isn't enough? What if I need this to be, you know, $6,500 or $6,000? Well, then I'm going to go to another option. Okay, how am I going to go to another option? Well, it might be that they absolutely love this floor, but they're willing to do their own trim work, or they're willing to pull out the old carpet, or they're willing to move their own furniture. Then I can start taking those lines out and give them a proposal that has the floor they love, but they're going to do some of the work.
Just out of curiosity too, if that happens and then we show up to the job and they didn't do any of the furniture move and that didn't happen, then how do you charge them for that?
So when I continue to proposal, we'll get into this later in the week, this project information and proposal information, I'm going to absolutely document on this proposal that this price is based on the customer moving their own furniture. This price is based on the customer removing the existing floor, right? So that if the installer shows up and the customer hasn't done their part, that it's in the contract that they signed that yes, they were going to do this work. And now I can go back and charge them. If I don't document it, then, you know, a verbal is a verbal. Good luck fighting it. All right, so let me drop you guys into the breakout rooms. I'll get these set up. And I want you to start with the pre-close question. Other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? And walk through the close. And for those of you that are, you know, that are being the customer, okay, be a nice customer, but still give them some objections and make them walk through the walk of life. The biggest thing is don't get chicken about asking the walk of life questions. Just ask them. You're certainly not going to offend anybody on this call. And the only way to actually do it is to do it. Let's see. Let's move my tablet out of the way. And let's move the whiteboard out of the way. I'm going to give you guys about a half an hour in the breakout rooms. During this period of time, I expect that you're probably going to get stuck. And when you do, there's a utility within Zoom to ask for help. Just reach out, and I may be in another room, but then I'll pop over to your room.
We liked
Years,
Salt Lake.
Dave, huh? Wow. I was ready to blow my brains out after 2 years with that company.
With Empire.
It was, yeah. I mean, we were in the same facility as Empire right outside of Boston, and but 95% of that operation was Empire. We were just this little, you know, we had like 7 reps for Luna, and all the rest, everybody else there was for Empire. But it was very difficult. So,
yeah, I didn't even know Luna existed till about 4 or 5 years in.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, Luna was in, well, ultimately it became 5 markets. That was it. And Empire was in the 160 or whatever, something like that. So, yeah, Luna was a tiny little blip on the radar. But we did pretty well around Boston. So.
All right, so everybody's coming back into the big room here. Mike Hudson had a couple, that was the last breakout room that I was in. Mike, you had another question for me. If you'll ask that again so that the group can share in the answer.
Sure. As we were walking through the walk of life questions about price, And we started out with a price that was like, say, the price that was quoted to me, the retail price was 15,000. And, I'm like in shock over that one. And we're working through those questions. And I just say, Arlen, I mean, can you get this job done for 10? At what point do you actually, show that there's, options behind door number 2 and options behind door number 3? I just showed you door number 1. So at what point do you sort of break into that part?
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to do this in sort of a graphical form. Okay. And this may help. It may hurt. I don't know. Hopefully this helps. This is sort of the way in my mind that I picture the walk of life. And when I look at this, I say, all right, here I am, and I'm asking the closing question, right? So would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment options? If I get nothing but poo-poo, I'm immediately going to ask the bridge the gap question. So is this more than you thought it would be? And then it takes me down this path. If I get asked, if I immediately get a price objection, so when you're 100% satisfied, would you pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment options? This price is too high. Okay, good. Well, how much did you think it would be? Okay, and then that leads me down this path. If I ask the question, would you pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment options? And they say, oh, this isn't something we can do right now. This is something we'd have to do later. I'm immediately going to drop down, I'm immediately going to drop down. This is a specified time. I'm already getting that. So now I've already got to solve deferred payments, no interest, no payment plan, right? So I'm already there. Or if the customer says, once your job's complete, you're 100% satisfied, would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or take advantage of one of the payment options? Oh, that payment's too high. Well, I'm already here. So I'm already solving for payments. Okay. And then, of course, interest, I'm going to start talking to them about interest and lower the interest rate. All right. But now, what if, let's walk through the whole walk of life and everything. So let's start with poo-poo. Once your job's complete, you're 100% satisfied. Would you be in a position to pay with a personal check or when you want to take advantage of one of the payment options? Oh, we just, can you give us until Friday to think about it? Well, that's nothing but poo-poo. All right. Is this more than you thought it was going to be? Yes, it's more than I thought it was going to be. Well, how much did you think a project like this would be? Well, we thought it was going to be about $8 grand. Okay. Well, now, can you see, now that you've seen what we do and how we do it, can you see why this would be more than you thought it was going to be? Oh, I can see why. It's just, you're at 15 grand and everybody else that I've talked to is at 8. Okay. Well, if you don't mind, while I'm here, how long do you think it would take for you to come up with the rest of the money? Oh, I'm not coming up with the rest of the money. I'm just not paying 15 grand for this project. Okay, so what is that? That's a never. Now I'm jumping to option 2. Now, frankly, you could get your never much earlier, right? So a customer immediately says, 15 grand, what are you bending me over backwards, dude? There's no way I'm not paying 15 grand. I've had 3 people in here and they've all been at 8, and there's no way that I'm doing that. Okay, well, you know what you did? You immediately got to your never. So now let's go to option 2. Or Mike, the way you phrased it was, is there any way we could do this project for 10?
Right.
You just handed me the answer. Great. You know what? I've got another way that we can attack this project. Let's take a look at option 2.
So Arlen, like if we come up with somebody who's got like some lowball bids from some other, competitors on it, and they say, oh, it's similar product and stuff like that. Does that come up regularly or,
Well, okay, when you say similar project, so that immediately sends little bells off in my mind, right? Because what that tells me is if your customer says, well, it's the same, this is the same thing. It's just carpet and fuzzy side is up. Okay, well then what that tells me is I didn't do a particularly good job of showing the customer the difference in product.
Okay.
Or maybe I did show them a brilliant difference in the product, but it doesn't matter to them. They don't care. All they really want is just get me something that's clean, right? I mean, I can show you a Ferrari 458, and we can talk about 0 to 60 speeds, and we can talk about how it corners and the number of G-forces and the springs and the shocks and all that wonderful stuff. But if all you're really concerned about is, look, I just want to be able to go to the store and pick up a gallon of milk, well, then it doesn't matter how great the Ferrari 458 is. It doesn't make any difference at all. All you're really concerned about, I just need something to drive. Give me a Kia, you know? So, and that's fine. I'm never going to be able to compete with a Kia if I'm selling Ferraris. So the nice thing is I've got Kias in the van too. I can sell a Kia. I just have to listen that this is what this customer is looking for. John.
Yeah. So Sean O'Rourke has done all this great research that, like, for us to be competitive, we, you know, on vinyl, we need to be at X dollars installed. On carpet, we need to be at X dollars installed to be competitive. Are we assuming already that we've led with a competitive product and price, or are we, like, throughout this exercise where we're at 15 and the customer says, hey man, everybody else is saying 8, have we not done a great job in selecting a competitive product? Does that question make sense? Did I ask that in a way that makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, it does. Okay. So I'm gonna answer that. I'm gonna answer that a couple of different ways. First of all, what does it mean to be competitive? Being competitive does not necessarily mean that you're the cheapest price. It might be that the customer really is looking for a Ferrari and all of their competitive quotes have come back with Kias, right? It might be that that's exactly what they're looking for. So in that case, being competitive doesn't necessarily mean the lowest price. Being competitive means that I've listened to the customer and I've given them what they're looking for. And yeah, it costs more because it's a better product. Okay, so that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing that I will say is, all right, we've been doing a lot of these close rate sessions around the country. We've now done one in Orlando and Dallas, Chicago, Philly. We've been doing a lot of these close rate sessions. And what we have uncovered is that when franchisees are presented with a scenario like, this is a rental house and I want something cheap. Okay, so that's the scenario. It's very clear we're not looking for a Ferrari. We want something cheap. When that scenario is presented to people, people are still bringing out PG3s and PG4s. People are still trying to sell a higher end product. Okay. Well, does that mean that Sean hasn't put together a package where you've got a $1.58 LVP? Well, you've got a what? A $1.89 LVP. You do have a $1.89 LVP. The problem isn't that it's not available. The problem is that people are pulling out a $4 LVP because they want something that looks really cool. Okay. The other piece of the puzzle is you have to be able to estimate correctly. So you're doing a luxury vinyl, a rigid luxury vinyl plank, and the tablet puts in 1/4-inch plywood, you got to take it out. Or all of a sudden the tablet puts in $1,000 for freight, and you know it's not $1,000 for freight, but you leave it in there anyway. It's not so much that the product price is wrong, but the estimate is wrong. So when you're talking about being competitive, what does that mean exactly? Being competitive does not always mean the lowest price. It does, however, mean that you have to be able to estimate it correctly. And you have to be able to estimate it based on what it is that the customer is looking for. So I know I was in the Orlando one, and in the Orlando one, the house that I was in and that, you know, had competitive estimates, the kitchen, just the way the house was built over time, additions and whatever else, from the kitchen to the living room there was about a 2-inch drop. Okay, so there was about a 2-inch drop off there, right? And I don't remember how many people in their quote, they tried to put like $15,000 worth of plywood to build the living room up so that it was at the same height as the kitchen. Okay, nobody asked you to do that. The objective was, this is an Airbnb. I'm looking for something cheap to make this look better. And then people were coming in with $15,000 added. I mean, like the highest one I saw was right at 19 grand. And part of the reason it was that high is because the person put in $15,000 worth of plywood to be able to bring the living room up to the same height as the kitchen. But that wasn't asked for. So you have to listen to what it is that the customer is asking for. Being competitive, the first and foremost, the number one rule of anything in sales is listen to what your customer is looking for and be able to solve that problem. Does that help you, John?
It does. I guess the one quick follow-up I had to that is I was just at the Philadelphia close rate event. It was amazing, by the way. In the circumstance where the customer is looking for a Ferrari, but everybody else showed them a Kia, I think the biggest takeaway from the close rate event was still price your Ferrari, but have the Kia. And I'm not understanding. So say option 1 is the Ferrari and option 2 is the Kia. Where in this are we able to say, okay, here's an $8,000 option. However, the reason this one is 15 is because it has lifeguard. And you know what I mean? How are we moving between options?
Okay. So here's where there's here's where there is, and it's unavoidable, but this is where the close rate sessions, there's a difficulty in the way that it's structured, right? So you were asked, and everybody was asked in the close rate session to present a Kia. And then you had people presenting Ferraris, and they're like, yeah, but I had a Kia I could have presented. Well, that's what you were asked for. Okay. So if you're asked for a Kia, present a Kia. Good. So the normal flow of this, you walk into most houses, what are you going to do? Step 1, you've got your warm-up. Step 2, you got your inspection. Step 3, you measure. And what do? You put together 3 options. Okay. Step 4, you do your company story. Step 5, you got your installation video. Step 6, you show them product. Okay. Which product are you showing them? Well, I'm starting with option 1. Okay. Now that we've picked this is the perfect product, I do my pre-close. I do my close. Okay. But what have I done? I've taken this option 1 all the way to the close. Okay. So the customer says, yes, that's the hardwood. I absolutely love it. So other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started? And would you pay with a check or take advantage of one of the payment options? Oh, hell no. I'm never spending that much money. Okay, great. I've got another option for you. So now what do? I come back. I grab option 2, but I'm not going all the way back here. I'm going back to here. Let's erase that. I'm not going that far back. I'm going this far back. Okay, so I come back into step 6 and I pick up on option 2. And I take option 2 forward. Okay, so if we use this product, this is what our price would be. Okay, no, I'm still not paying that much money. All right, then I go back again and pick up option 3 and take option 3 to the end. I know there's some systems where the customer will see a good, better, and best, like right off the bat. Okay, if we did a good, better, and best, this is what your pricing would be. But the difficulty with that is, or the problem with that is, that means you have to get the customer to pick out a good, better, and best, right? Okay, so how awkward is this? Here's a great hardwood and you absolutely love it. Okay, but just in case this is too much, let's go ahead and pick out an LVP and have that one waiting. Well, and if that one's too much, let's go ahead and pick out a laminate. People don't think that way. Here's a great hardwood. This is the price for the hardwood. Oh, that's too much? Okay, well, let's take a look at an LVP option. Oh, that's still too much? Let's take a look at a laminate option. I mean, unless the customer just says, look, my budget is $5,000. I can't go over that. Okay, well then maybe we jump immediately to the left. Yeah, Linda.
Just while we were in our group session, I had gone down that path of like, oh, I can do these different options. But Chris challenged me and said, well, yeah, I really like the one I picked out though. I just want it to be cheaper. I like the 12,000 product, So I mean, I can offer a discount, but I'm never going to get it down $2,000 necessarily, unless I totally cut my margin. So would you just respectfully kind of say, look, for this product, and this type of material, the quality of the installation we do, blah, 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 that, I can sharpen my pencil a little bit, but I'm never going to be able to match that other price.
I might come back to him and say, hey, you know what? I'd really love to earn your business. And if 10 grand is a cap for you, you look like you're pretty handy. You could pull the old carpet out yourself. You could move the furniture and pull the old carpet out yourself. So when we show up, the floor is empty and ready to go. And then you can install if you want, you can install your new baseboards or quarter round. If you want to go that route, you can move the furniture back in place, right? So what can I do? It's not always just moving the product out. I could take some of the services out.
So Arlen, when you do that, are you just like, okay, like telling the customer, well, why don't give me a second, let me pick this option in my tablet. I'm going to go take these things out and I'm going to show you what the new product looks like. Is that sort of like
Absolutely.
the flow that you do there?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But now, Mark, the other thing that I'm going to do, so just caution on that. The first thing I'm going to copy the option, right? I'm not going to screw around with the option that I have, because the customer may very well come back and say, well, no, I don't want to do all that, put all that stuff back. Okay, so just from a practical perspective, I'm going to copy that option, go in, delete, 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 delete. Okay, this is what that would look like. Okay, I had a guy, I never forget this guy. The dude's name was Bob Cummings. And the reason I remember him is because when I went to his home, he had like a folder of quotes, but the quotes dated back like for the last 8 years. He's been collecting quotes for like 8 years to do this project. And he's like, well, why are you more expensive than this one? Well, for one thing, this one's 6 years old, but okay, let's take a look at this. So he gives me this list from Lowe's of all the stuff that Lowe's is not going to do. And I look at it and say, yeah, but we're going to do all this. I mean, okay. So anyway, we ended up doing the project with him. And if I think about how that went off, he wanted me to be competitive with this other company. And I said, Mr. Cummings, I'm going to quote this exactly the way this other company has quoted. But what this other company has done, he was very open. He showed me the quote. I said, the way that this company has quoted this is they've got you removing your carpet. They've got you moving your furniture. They've got you putting in the transitions when it's done. They've got you doing this. So I'm going to quote it the same way. I don't want to do the job that way because I don't think it's the right way to do it. But I'm going to quote it the same way so that you can see what it looks like apples to apples. Okay. And so obviously we ended up adding all that stuff back. This was like an 85-year-old man. I don't want to move in his own furniture and ripping his old carpet out. But he wanted to see it quoted the same so that he could, in his mind, he could see that we were still, within reason. Okay, good. Mike, you're muted.
Got it. Okay, thank you. But up front, when we have the three options for building those, if the customer was going to say, hey, give me a spread of things, would you present the spread? When would you present sort of like a spread of options? And they're like going, this is what I really want, but I want to see, what would be some other good options to go down.
So look, you're gonna follow the customer's lead on that, but at the end, I'm still only going to give them one price at a time, right? So the customer says, I want to see the price for the whole house. Okay, well, here's the price for the whole house. And I'm still going to do it one at a time because people can't process multiple ones. The more options you give somebody, the more complicated it is. It's just overwhelming. So give them one at a time.
So you'd go through option one and then see what their reaction is and say, okay, well, we've got some other step downs here we can do.
Yeah. And remember, you asked me to quote it with just the master bedroom. So let's take a look at that one. One at a time. Yeah, John.
Yeah, going back to that. So back to the whole 15-8, right? You quote 15, they say, whoa, competitors have 8. We go down to an $8,000 option. Wouldn't at that point it be helpful though to have the 8 and the 15 next to each other so that we can sell them back to the 15 and say,
Well, I mean,
all
they're
right,
right
we
there.
have
They
an
are next to each other.
$8,000 option, but you're giving up your stain protection, you're giving up your,
Sure.
premium under, like that I guess is where my question is, we get back to the competitor level of the 8 to show them we can be competitive, but we do have real value to get them back to 15. And it seems like technologically, there's no way in the tablet to get those options next to each other. Wouldn't it
Sure
be
there is.
helpful to help get us back to that option 1?
What do you mean? It's absolutely possible to put them side by side.
Oh, I in that case, then just don't know how, and I'll check
Yeah,
that.
so put together a proposal that has 3 options, and you'll see all 3 options sitting right there side by side. Now, you won't get the price and payment sheet side by side. You'll just get the total price.
I got you. Okay.
But you'll see that you can put all 3 of them side by side on the screen.
Got it.
All right, let me do Dave.
Yeah.
So Dave and
Also,
Chris.
John, I was just going to add that if you have all your 3 options, when you get to your price and payment tab, you can actually swipe that page left and right so that you can actually see the pricing terms for each of your options very quickly in the tablet. I think.
Yes, that's true. Dave.
As far as with the 85-year-old guy with the so I'm just thinking if we were at 15, another company was at 10, and we were telling them, well, if you can, maybe move your furniture, remove your carpet, do all this extra work, and they say, well, the company that's at 10, is including all that. What would you say or do to that?
Okay, so there's got to be a difference somewhere, right? The difference, not margin. The difference has to be either I've messed up the estimate. So I've included something that doesn't need to be there. There's something that I've messed up in the estimate, or I am including something that the other company is not including, or I'm presenting a product that's way up here and they're presenting a product that's there. So keep in mind, if you look at Lowe's, if you look at Home Depot, if you look at Empire, if you look at Luna, if you look at your competitors are quoting between 53 and 60% margins. And when I say that they're quoting at 53 to 60% margin, I have no idea what they're actually paying for their product. I don't know what their cost is. I'm looking at their estimate using my cost. So using my cost, they're quoting at a 53, 55, 60% margin. So it's not the margin. If there really is a difference of $5,000 on a project, it's because either I've quoted a much, much higher priced product and I maybe need to find a product that's less expensive, or I've absolutely screwed up the estimate somehow.
Wouldn't it make sense? I know, I mean, unless I was, oblivious to the 2 days last week, doesn't it make more sense to do just the opposite, to make option 1 more competitive? And then if they wanted to, if they said, well, this isn't really nice and I'd like something thicker, I'd like something a little bit better, then move up. But to start, and that's definitely what I got from these 2 days that they,
so remember what I said at the very beginning of today. There's more than one way to do this. I'm teaching a method. This is not the only method. If it works better for you to start with low and go high, do it.
Okay.
I like to start high and go low, but I also know that I'm in the house and I'm not going to be chicken. I'm going to stay at the table until I've gotten a number that they can live with.
Okay.
But this is not the only way to do this. Mutu.
Yeah, for the option 2, we have to go to the van and we have to get the board, or we have to bring all together at the same time.
So I normally like to I will sometimes I'll bring the option 2 boards and just leave them at the front door. That way I don't have to go all the way back to the van. But if for whatever reason I don't want to leave them on the front door, sometimes I'll leave them in the front seat of the van so they're easy to get. I want it to be very fast.
Okay.
Okay. And remember, like with carpet, carpet, you might have a winner's choice, 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the same board, in which case you're not changing the board. You're just going from a 3 to a 2.
Okay.
All right, one more, Chris, and then I'm going to have to let you guys go because some of you have a Zoom meeting right at 4:30, and I want to make sure you got time to run to the restroom before you jump on that. So, Chris?
Yeah, just real quick. I was trying to understand the process of bringing 7 to 9 boards, which is kind of what you were just talking about a second ago with Mutsu, into a home or leaving a couple outside. You answered part of it by saying, hey, leave a couple outside, because I've never brought that many into a house at the same time. I generally try to narrow it down a little bit more.
Yeah, so like I said, most of the time, well, on some of the boards, especially carpet, you'll have different price levels on the same board. Okay, so that's one way to handle it. The other thing is if you can leave boards on the front seat of the van. So if I have to go get especially like the option 1 boards, maybe I'll leave the option 1 boards on the front seat of the van. So I'm not carrying 7 or 10 boards in, I'm carrying maybe 6 boards in. Maybe I don't even carry all 6. Maybe I just carry the option 1 boards in and I leave everything else on the front seat of the van. This is all going to be very situational and you'll work out what works for you. I mean, clearly, if there's a half a mile driveway, I'm not going to walk back and forth to the van. Some of you are in big cities. You happen to be working up and down skyscrapers. You're going up and down high-rise apartments. You've got to rearrange how you think about carrying boards in. Otherwise, you're going to spend all your time going up and down on the elevator. So you'll work out what works best for you. What you do want to do is sort of control what it is that the customer is looking at. If you bring 9 boards in, because you can beast them in the house, you bring 9 boards in and lay them all in front of the customer, that's what the customer is going to focus on. So I want to focus the customer on option 1. Good. These are the boards that we're going to look at. Maybe the other boards are in the foyer, and I only bring certain boards into the living room. Maybe some boards are on the front porch. Wherever I decide to leave them is fine, but I want to control what the customer is looking at. Right? I mean, to that end, and again, these are small things, right? I'm picking on small things. I was with a franchise owner. We were running appointments together. And when he would sit down on the couch to go through his company story, he would take the boards and sit them right in front of him. So he's sitting on the couch and the boards are like leaning up against his knees right in front of him as he's going through the company story. Well, what's the customer paying attention to? The boards. So one small thing, hey, don't put this right in front of you, put it behind you somehow, put it to the side so that you have the customer's focus on the tablet, not on the boards. All right, these are little things. I know there's little things, but we win or lose this game by millimeters. So it's the little things we have to pay attention to. All right, good work today, guys. I hope you got something out of this. You guys will either jump on with the ops coach that you're working with or with your franchise owner. Remember, I need to get evaluation forms back tonight. Now, those of you that are with ops coaches, they know that, but make sure that they copy you on their feedback. Make sure you get feedback from them. That's what makes this thing work. And I will see you guys tomorrow, same time, 11 o'clock Eastern. We'll dive more into this if necessary. There's other stuff that we got to go through as well. Good stuff.
Thanks, Arlen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Arlen.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. Here we go. Trying to stop the share. Good.
Arlen, sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
It's Bella, by the way. So Ken's in Mexico right now.
Oh, is he at the FAC meeting?
Yeah, but Amy's here, but she's kind of confused as to like what's going on with the